complete chaos out there. We've got officers going in heavily armed now. It's all snowballed into hell.
Then we arrived in the area of where the body was, and it was quite apparent that whoever it was deceased. There was a white tiger chewing on him.
Sheriff's office.
Yeah, I think I just seen one. It's like a jaguar or a wolf or something.
In the fall of 2011, the sleepy small town of Zanesville, Ohio, experienced a nightmare. All because of one man, Terry Thompson. As the owner of more than 50 exotic animals, he earned quite a reputation in town, especially when he decided to set them free.
I had made contact with the sheriff that appeared that everything had been turned loose. And I mean, there was bears, there was tigers, there was lions running everywhere.
Why did Terry unleash his animals on the town? Was it an act of spite? Which one of his exotic animals was never found by the police? And how many people were eaten alive?
Hi, Marvin. Yeah, this is Coke Dock on Coke Dock Road, and we live next to Terry Thompson, and there's a bear and a lion now.
This is Zanesville, Ohio, a quaint town known for its unique Y-shaped bridge and being the pottery capital of the world. It's the type of place where everyone knows everyone, and most residents knew about Terry and his eclectic animal farm.
Yeah, Terry was different. Terry always kind of pushed the envelope, but Terry was Terry.
Terry was born and raised just east of Zanesville. In his youth, he was passionate about flying and acquired his pilot's license as soon as he was of age. With an exciting career ahead of him, his life was turned upside down when he was drafted into the Vietnam War. In the years following his tour, the trauma continued to haunt him. After returning home, Terry met his wife Marion, a teacher who was also a decorated prize-winning horse rider and animal lover. He opened a motorcycle shop and got a license to sell guns, all while gaining a reputation for doing things a little differently than everyone else. One day, for Marion's birthday, Terry bought a baby tiger cub at an exotic animal auction, a gift that would quickly turn into his new obsession. From guns to cars, and then animals, Terry was a hoarder, feeling he could never have enough. The couple sunk thousands of dollars into their amateur zoo, housing lions, tigers, bears, wolves, and even monkeys. To feed their hungry residents, Terry was known for collecting roadkill, taking dead livestock from neighbors, and buying leftover chicken parts unfit for eating. Soon, he turned his collection into a business, acting as an animal handler for Animal Planet's show Wild Kingdom in 2008.
Is Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
He also provided a lion cub for a photo shoot with supermodel Heidi Klum. But later that year, his side hustle, selling guns, began to raise suspicion. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the ATF, raided his home, taking away 133 guns and dozens of rounds of ammunition. To make matters worse, his marriage was on the rocks. Terry accused Marion of ratting him out to the authorities and was known to be verbally abusive toward her. After 40 years of marriage, Marion decided to separate. Ultimately, he pleaded guilty to possession of unregistered firearms and served 10 months in prison. And despite his efforts to patch things up with Marion, she had no sympathy for him.
I think Terry's downfall is that when he returned from prison, Marion was not at the farm waiting for him.
Drowning in debt and suspicious his wife had cheated on him during his time in prison, Terry did something no one could have prepared for. On October 18, 2011, Terry's neighbor Sam Kopchak noticed something was off while leading his horse, Red, to pasture.
I saw the horses that were there. Was probably about 60 horses I estimate that they had. They were going around a circle. And I said, well, they're not supposed to do that. Something's going on, you know.
Sam decided to take a closer look and headed over to the edge of Terry's paddock. He saw a dark shape emerge in the middle of the circling horses, a large black bear. Sam initially brushed this off as a rare sighting of an endangered animal in Ohio and did his best to calm down Red. But what he saw next shook him to the core.
I just felt like something was looking at me, and I kind of turned to the left, and big male African lion, he came down. This is about the spot he was setting. He just sat down right there.
Sam knew it wasn't wise to run from a lion, so he slowly but briskly walked away. He only looked back once, about a third of the way from his barn, to see the lion staring ominously at him behind a fence it could easily vault over. Sam first thought he needed to warn his elderly mother. She lived with him and was home all alone, an easy target for a hungry predator. He brought Red into the barn, locked the doors, and phoned his mom in a frenzy. Alarmed by the news, she quickly called the Thompson residence, but all she got was the answering machine. That's when she knew she had to call 911.
45 and 54 behind Kochek Road. Complaint advised there is a bear and a lion loose running in the area.
I was kind of skeptical right at first. I just thought maybe somebody had seen a big dog or something.
Deputy Jonathan Mary, who was serving a court summons just a couple miles outside of town, received the strange call and acted immediately. He drove up and knocked on Mrs. Kopchek's door. A large gray wolf ran along the road behind him as he turned around. Mary hopped into his patrol car and followed the wolf. As it approached a nearby house, he got out, grabbed his rifle from the trunk, and approached it slowly. He radioed headquarters and was told to put the wolf down. With a well-aimed shot, the threat was eliminated. But just as he went to inspect the wolf's body, he got another alarming call. His colleagues were face to face with a lion near the Thompson residence, armed with standard-issued pistols. Not exactly the kind of firepower needed to deal with a full-grown lion. Meanwhile, Sergeant Steve Blake rushed to the scene and pulled up to the Thompson property. He and John Moore, Terry's animal caretaker, approached the Thompson house. They found cages that were cut, some left open, and 2 that contained a couple of monkeys and a dog. They came across a gruesome scene as they cautiously walked to the barn. A large white tiger was eating something. Upon closer inspection, it was a body that was barely recognizable. As Deputy Mary drove up the hill toward the Thompson property, he saw another deputy running in fear. Mary reached for his rifle, but it snagged on the cruiser's computer stand. Instead, he grabbed his Glock. As soon as he turned around, a 350-pound black bear charged him. Usually, black bears will do a bluff charge to test your dominance. Your best bet to survive is to stand your ground and look tall. But most of all, don't run. Just a few feet away from him, Mary shot the bear. Thankfully, it was in the head. Otherwise, his Glock's bullet likely wouldn't have slowed it down. Shaken by the ordeal, he went to grab his rifle from his patrol car. And it's a good thing he did. Just moments later, a large African lioness crawled under Terry's fence and ran down the road toward another neighbor's home. Mary aimed and took the shot. Another one down, but how many were left to go? A number of emergency units, including the Columbus Zoo's capture and recovery team, arrived at the Thompson property, preparing for the worst possible scenario.
On the way to the scene, I made it clear to the guys on the scene that if there were any animals outside the pasture field or looking like they were going out of the fence, they would be put down.
We were first approached by, I believe it was 2 tigers come out of a barn towards us. And as they rushed the truck, we were forced to dispatch them.
But what if you encountered a tiger and didn't have a gun? Stay calm and slowly back away. Don't make eye contact, as this could be seen as threatening to the tiger. The same advice goes for most wild cats. Avoid turning and running. It will only make you vulnerable to an attack from behind. If the tiger continues to approach you, make yourself appear big. Make loud noises too. If it attacks, fight like hell. It's your best chance at survival. Here on How to Survive, we cover all kinds of survival scenarios. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible survival stories. Still putting together the pieces of what happened, the officers approached a mangled body. Unknown to them, dozens of wild predators were still loose, waiting for the opportunity to pounce.
Then we arrived in the area of where the body was, and it was quite apparent whoever it was deceased. There was a white tiger chewing on him.
The officers figured at the time that Terry's animals must have gotten loose and killed him. They started shutting the doors to contain the animals still in their cages. It was then that they realized this large escape was no accident.
I look over, and maybe 3 feet away from where the door is, there's a large hole that's cut in the chain link fence. As soon as I saw that, I remember the blue bolt lock cutters that are laying beside Terry Thompson.
An investigation was needed to determine what happened. Still, the priority now was ensuring Zanesville citizens' safety. Officers, armed with both tranquilizers and guns, were now on a mission.
I'm on 23 and there's a lion in the road.
11's clear in here.
Stay indoors.
Remain indoors. Don't try to approach them.
911.
Yeah, there's a lion on Mount Perry Road in Gray Shot.
I'm pretty sure, and I just saw a wolf.
I think I just seen one. Looks like a jaguar or a wolf or something.
Now, what can law enforcement do? You've got an immediate logistical problem in front of you, which is that you've got a lot of very dangerous animals in an environment that they're not familiar with and they're uncontained. So you have to do something. Your primary purpose here is to preserve human life, and you have dangerous animals out and about.
As they began to lose sunlight, authorities grew more concerned about wild animals being loose at night, leaving unsuspecting victims in even more danger. After weighing over what to do next, the city's sheriff made the call, which they felt was necessary to protect everyone.
There was no other option except to dispatch the animals. We started engaging the animals at different distances.
The majority of the animals on Thompson's property were shot, but one cougar escaped and died after being hit by a car. With animal corpses littered everywhere, officers started to sort out the bodies by species to get a count. In total, 49 exotic animals were killed. This included 18 Bengal tigers, 17 lions, 6 black bears, a pair of grizzlies, 3 mountain lions, 2 wolves, and a baboon. 6 other animals were captured alive: 3 leopards, a grizzly bear, and 2 monkeys. But to this day, 1 has gone unaccounted for. A macaque was never located. Although there was fear it could have been carrying a disease like hepatitis B, authorities determined it was likely eaten by one of the other escapees. While the chaos was over, the investigation was only just beginning.
See all of these animals piled up after they were killed because they were running free, running loose in a dangerous situation. This is wrong. This is way wrong.
Once it was safe to do so, a forensics team inspected the crime scene, starting with Terry's body. It was then officially determined that on October 18th, 2011, Terry Thompson opened all of his animal cages, allowing them to run wild and wreak havoc on the citizens of Zanesville. But what was even more shocking was how he died.
There was a head wound, a head gunshot wound. His hands were filled with gunpowder residue. Leads us to believe that this is a suicide.
There were also reports raw chicken was scattered around Terry's body, with some believing he wanted the animals to feast on his remains. An autopsy revealed that Terry was suffering from a severe cardiovascular disease. It's unclear how much time he had or if he knew about his condition. A few weeks out of prison, his finances in tatters, and his relationship with Marianne over, Terry snapped. Others believed his hoarding got the best of him, making him feel helpless on top of everything else.
He couldn't stop acquiring more. I think he just worked himself into a hole. But he just couldn't bring himself to get rid of it.
When Marianne came to the property, she was distraught, to say the least. After agreeing to relocate the 6 surviving animals to a zoo, she insisted they be buried on their property when they passed.
You reached Jim County Sheriff's Office.
Shooting animals? You guys are outrageous! Man, shooting animals with live rounds, you...
The backlash the authorities received from citizens and the world was swift. Many thought the deaths of the animals, including 18 endangered Bengal tigers, were unnecessary.
I'm sorry to say that what the sheriff did had to be done, or else we would have had carnage out here this morning in Zanesville, Ohio.
Now you could say, oh, they could have, I don't know, people said at the time, oh, they should have tranquilized them and relocated them. Well, where are these magic tranquilizers coming from? Some local vet happens to be fully kitted up to tranquilize 50-odd huge, wild, aggressive animals with the experience. Massively unlikely. Thinking about this, these animals are spreading out further and further. So, I mean, it's regrettable, but I think the law enforcement did exactly the right thing, and they probably should have done it sooner.
With only 1 death, due to a self-inflicted wound, the amount of damage done to the public was kept to a minimum.
About a mile down the road that evening, there was a tournament soccer game going on. There could have been a lot of tragedy, and there wasn't. For the most part, no one was injured.
Before the Zanesville Massacre, exotic animal laws in Ohio and other parts of the country were fairly lax. In fact, a person could technically buy a lion or tiger without telling anyone, including the government or their neighbors. The United States Department of Agriculture would need to be informed only if you crossed state lines with them or put them on display for others to see. But following this incident, The idea of exotic animal ownership took the international spotlight, and lawmakers scrambled to tighten restrictions. It took 3 years, but as of January 1st, 2014, Ohio's exotic animal laws were made official, banning dozens of animals from being privately owned.
We have vipers here, you have baboons, you have lions, tigers, everything. And you would never think it is here in America, but it is here and it is rampant and is running wild.
The award-winning 2010 documentary, The Elephant in the Living Room, highlighted the sad state of exotic animal ownership across the US. There are just under 4,000 tigers in the wild, substantially fewer than the estimated 5,000 captive tigers in the US alone. Although some believe wild animals belong in their natural habitat, others, like Joe Exotic, aka the Tiger King, feel they're doing what's best for them.
The only safe place for an animal in the United States is in a cage, in a zoo, or somebody's yard that can properly care for them.
Joe is currently serving 22 years in prison for killing tigers and hiring hitmen. He's since changed his tune on animal captivity, saying no animals belong in a cage. Maybe living behind bars, like his tigers before him, is responsible for his shift in perspective. Unfortunately, most exotic animal owners don't have the funds or proper infrastructure to care for these animals, even if they mean well. As with Zanesville, they pose a risk to the owners and the general public.
As far as I'm concerned, I can't see that there's ever any need for a private individual to be keeping a lion or a tiger. And I also don't think that it's really possible in most cases for a private individual to satisfactorily keep an animal like that. Bearing in mind what you require, and bearing in mind that zoos struggle, the idea that you can, as a private individual, keep them, I think is quite tricky. And I think if you want to, you probably should scale up what you're doing to the size of a zoo and apply to become a zoo.
Since 1990, over 1,500 deadly or near-deadly incidents involving captive wild animals have been documented across the United States, including at least 806 attacks by big cats, hundreds of primate-related injuries, and multiple fatalities from pet reptiles. Imagine being part of that statistic, waking up and realizing your so-called pet is about to devour you. As hard as that is to picture, it's happened more than once. From monstrous pythons slithering out of enclosures to bears that were hand-fed like yard squirrels, these are wild predators forced into our suburban backyards and living rooms. You can guess how well that ends. Hold on to your popcorn, we're about to see 4 epic failures in animal whispering. What legal exotic pet is responsible for the most deaths? How did a circus tiger get its revenge on its owners? And how did one deadly mistake cost the life of this exotic reptile owner? And for anyone thinking they can pull off a Joe Exotic after a weekend Netflix binge, you might want to watch this to the end.
Ow, son of a bitch!
The peaceful mountains of Uray County, Colorado served as the backdrop for Donna Munson's lifelong devotion to wildlife. A 74-year-old widow battling arthritis, she insisted on feeding animals, particularly the local black bears, for over a decade, leaving out everything from dog food to fruit scraps. As her health declined, Donna built a makeshift wire fence around her porch to keep from being overwhelmed by the massive creatures that frequently prowled her property at night. Neighbors watched nervously as up to 14 bears roamed her land, scratching at windowsills and cars lured by the promise of easy meals. Despite repeated warnings from the Colorado Division of Wildlife and those anxious neighbors, Donna insisted she was helping the bears. She even named them, believing they posed no danger to her. But as the bears grew bolder, so did the tension in the community. Tenants with small children moved out. Donna's housekeeper dreaded every visit. Yet Donna's kindness outweighed the mounting threats. Until it was too late. On August 7th, 2009, authorities discovered Donna's body near her porch, mauled and partially consumed. Investigators concluded a bear had reached through her flimsy fence, dragged her underneath, and killed her. Even while the police gathered evidence, one of the massive bears returned, still looking for food. It was a haunting end to Donna's dream of living in harmony with the wild, a dream that ultimately came at a terrifying cost. These aren't oversized teddy bears to play or cuddle with, something the grizzly man, Timothy Treadwell, believed before his fateful attack. Globally, between 2000 and 2015, there were 664 documented brown bear attacks on people, resulting in 95 deaths. Even the iconic Yellowstone National Park has logged 44 bear attacks since 1979. Simply put, when the claws come out, no amount of familiarity can guarantee your safety. Let that sink in for a minute. If you turn wild predators into regular lunch guests, you might end up on their menu. In the aftermath of Donna Munson's death, the Colorado Department of Wildlife euthanized several bears in the area for public safety. Local residents were outraged that these animals had to die. So what should you do if a bear decides to swipe right on you for dinner? Don't feed them. When you give food to bears, you're just training them to associate you with food. Stay calm if you encounter a black bear. They will often do a bluff charge to test your dominance. So stand your ground, make noise, and wave your arms to appear large. Carry bear spray. In many cases, it's more effective than a firearm at close range. But let's say you're still convinced you're the next bear whisperer. Please, maybe just adopt a pug instead.
If you can't be a responsible pet owner, then maybe you don't deserve this little unicorn.
If you think Donna Munson's story was shocking, wait until you hear about how a 400-pound tiger gave its owners a standing ovation by ripping them apart. Welcome to the flamboyant world of the Cat Dancers, a trio of performers who tangoed on stage with majestic big cats. This ensemble included husband and wife Ron and Joy Holiday, plus their dance partner, Chuck Liza. For years, they dazzled crowds with their up-close illusions of harmony between humans and tigers. Their star attraction was a regal white tiger named Jupiter. If you have watched Tiger King, you know that playing with tigers is basically dancing with a loaded gun.
Son of a...
On October 8th, 1998, this unconventional menage a trois experienced a devastating turn. Chuck was walking toward Jupiter, calmly sitting in the open compound that was the Cat Dancers' ranch, when, without warning, the tiger lunged and clamped down on his throat.
Fangs this long went in here and here completely. A fountain of blood squirting out this far.
Chuck bled out on the spot, shattering Ron and Joy's world. It was every caretaker's worst nightmare. Tragically, that was only the beginning. 5 weeks later, Joy was still reeling from Chuck's death. She hadn't gone near the babies since the attack, but finally summoned the courage to feed them again. Everything went smoothly until it was time to feed Jupiter. Suddenly, Joy began trembling in fear.
She started falling forward, and as she's falling forward, he grabbed her by the neck and threw her. She hit the ceiling and bounced on the floor.
She too lost her life to Jupiter's crushing jaws, proving just how quickly a beloved big cat can become a truly catastrophic threat. People who raise cats like this from cubhood often develop a false sense of security, a psychological phenomenon called the illusion of control. We think, oh, this tiger loves me, I'm its mom. But deep down, it's a 500-pound apex predator with the same instincts it's had for over 2 million years. It's estimated there are around 5,000 captive tigers in the United States alone, compared to approximately 3,900 in the wild worldwide. Many of these tigers are kept in substandard facilities or private homes. And while obviously not all captive tigers attack, the number of fatalities is significant enough that multiple states have enacted partial or full bans on private ownership. The aftermath was devastating for Ron Holiday. He lost his wife and close friend, all within the span of a few weeks, to the creature they had collectively raised and loved. Jupiter was ultimately shot and killed by authorities. Ron gave up performing, and the tragedy overshadowed his life's work. Some big cat enthusiasts still argue that you can truly tame a tiger, but the cold hard truth is a single slip can end your life. Something Roy Horn learned the hard way. If you haven't watched the Siegfried and Roy episode yet, be sure to check that out after this. If you ever find yourself face to face with a tiger, here are some survival tips that could come in handy. Don't run. Tigers are ambush predators. They'll outrun you, no contest. Keep eye contact, stand tall, and back away slowly. Never approach a tiger, cub, or adult. If you see a friendly captive tiger, remember that kitty can crush your bones with a single bite. So before you decide to recreate the Jungle Book in your backyard, maybe invest in a cat that fits on your lap, not one that can devour you. But if tigers and bears don't set off your spidey sense, how about a monstrous reptile that can gnaw right through your arm? For lizard enthusiast Ron Huff, this was a risk he knew all too well. And if you find these stories mind-blowing, do us a solid and smash that like button and subscribe to How to Survive. Ron Huff was a 42-year-old ex-soldier who had once worked in military intelligence. He was known for his strict personal discipline, punctual at his car sales job, and fanatical about staying in shape. Friends said he could bench press 400 pounds, and he had the muscular build to prove it. Yet for all his outward rigor, Ron led a private life. He kept to himself in a small studio apartment in Newark, Delaware, rarely inviting people over. But those who did step inside discovered his real passion.
He had a collection of lizards. It was honestly a little intimidating. There was a lot of stuff in a small area.
Ron's fascination was Nile monitor lizards, large reptiles native to Africa. These creatures can grow up to 7 feet and weigh over 15 pounds. They're known for powerful jaws and a strong drive to hunt, making them formidable, even to experienced handlers. They also thrive in hot, humid environments, which explains why Ron's apartment was cranked to 80 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Nile monitors aren't shy about biting either. One coworker recalled Ron showing off a gash on his thumb with a flap of skin dangling from the wound. Despite such red flags, Ron let these reptiles roam freely in his home. In January 2002, Ron Huff did something uncharacteristic. He stopped coming to work. After 3 days with no word, his coworkers grew concerned.
We received a call to check on the welfare of Ronald Huff.
Officers arrived at Ron's apartment, where neighbors complained of a foul odor leaking through the walls. When they tried to force the door open, they felt resistance, like something heavy was shoved against it. What they found inside was beyond horrifying.
The police pushed the door open and screamed, "Get back," as loud as they could.
Huff's body lay partially consumed by 7 fully grown Nile monitor lizards, each nearly 6 feet long, roaming the small, overheated apartment like it was their own jungle. One responding officer described the gruesome scene.
I could see that his face was pretty well eaten. I could see his molars up where his ears should have been.
These are aggressive, powerful reptiles, strong enough to break down fences or doors if they escape their cage. The responding officers had no training in capturing animals like these. Even wildlife experts brought in to help admitted they had little experience handling full-grown Nile monitors. And if those lizards had gotten loose in the family-oriented apartment complex, the next victim could have been a small child. Despite their prehistoric appearance, monitor lizards don't rely on brute force alone. Many monitor species, including the infamous Nile monitor, produce venom, a chemical cocktail that can weaken or kill their prey. When combined with their powerful jaws and sharp claws, this toxin makes them extraordinarily lethal hunters. So, while it may be tempting to see them as oversized, scaly pets, their built-in biological weapon is a stark reminder that these reptiles still belong in the wild, not our living rooms. Imagine the police walking in only to find reptiles feasting on your remains. This scenario was so disturbing that tabloids around the world couldn't resist plastering it across their front pages. In the end, Ron's beloved pets overpowered a military veteran in prime physical shape. This harrowing incident exposed a terrifying truth. Even the strongest among us are no match for a pack of hungry predators once they decide it's mealtime. If you're ever bitten by a large monitor lizard, immediately clean and disinfect the wound to combat bacterial infection. Seek medical attention ASAP. These bites can lead to sepsis, a serious fast-spreading infection response in the body that can become life-threatening if left untreated. Resist the urge to keep wrestling it. Monitor lizards are strong and agile. They can deliver repeated bites, and their claws aren't exactly cuddly either. So next time you see a monitor lizard on sale at a reptile expo, ask yourself if you're prepared to feed it, or if it's prepared to feed on you. Pythons are majestic serpents that can grow longer than a pickup truck, up to 23 feet to be exact. In captivity, they've been known to roam bedrooms, slip out of enclosures, and occasionally wrap themselves around a sleeping human. Some owners do just fine with these snakes for years. Others, not so much. Daniel Brandon, a 31-year-old landscape worker from Church Crookham, UK, had a deep fascination with reptiles. He shared his bedroom with 10 snakes and 12 tarantulas, the centerpiece being an 8-foot African rock python named Tiny. Friends described Daniel as a responsible herpetologist who cared for his animals out of genuine curiosity rather than a desire to show off. However, his mother, Babs, acknowledged that Tiny could be unpredictable, occasionally striking at people who ventured too close. In August 2017, tragedy struck when Babs heard a loud crash and found Daniel face down on the floor. The medical examiner concluded he had died of asphyxiation, likely caused by Tiny coiling around him in either an affectionate or defensive manner. Sadly, there was no time to save him, underscoring the harsh reality that even the most conscientious reptile owners can fall victim to the creatures they cherish. According to a University of Michigan study, African rock pythons can exert over 7 pounds of pressure per square inch, enough to crush bone or stop blood flow. If a pet python starts to constrict you, stay calm. Thrashing around can make it tighten its grip. Try prying its coils away from your neck and chest to keep your airway open. If you can, have a second person help uncoil it from the tail upwards, never the head first, and seek immediate medical care for any injuries. Your best bet is to keep your distance from them, or maybe stick to looking at them behind a sturdy pane of glass. So, what did we learn today? That a massive exotic animal doesn't care how many times you've bottle fed it or posted selfies with it on Instagram. When instincts kick in, you're dealing with thousands of years of evolution. We also discovered that many owners genuinely believe they had a special bond with these creatures. A bond that turned lethal in an instant. Exotic animal attacks aren't just the stuff of tabloid headlines. They raise ethical questions about wildlife captivity, personal responsibility, and public safety. Over the years, many parts of the US have banned or heavily restricted owning big cats and venomous reptiles. For example, states like California and Hawaii have some of the strictest bans on exotics. If you're passionate about wildlife, consider supporting reputable sanctuaries or conservation programs instead of trying to keep a 400-pound predator in your garage. Let's be real, that's like inviting a T-Rex to a potluck. And if you thought these were disturbing, soon will make you question if man's best friend might instead be man's worst nightmare. We'll cover some of the deadliest dog attacks in our next episode.
I feel like I didn't ask for this, so I think that it's time to show who I am now, and I can't be scared of it.
Dog attacks can happen to anyone, anywhere. Sometimes a little scratch or bite will draw blood. However, more severe attacks can lead to reconstructive surgeries, years of therapy, and even death. Breeds are often at fault, which has led to several being banned in certain countries. And the one trait all of these banned breeds have in common, they're all large dogs with a history of aggressive behavior. Many argue that the dog is not to blame for attacks, but the owner. Yet, statistics show that dogs with wide, short heads and weighing between 66 and 100 pounds are most likely to bite. Today we'll look at some of the most unsettling dog attacks and how to survive one. What breed of dogs has killed the most humans? how did this woman lose both of her arms from a dog attack? And which dog has the strongest bite?
You say you've had 18 surgeries?
18 surgeries.
Since the attack? And do they have any estimate of how many more you'll have to go through?
They don't know the number of surgeries, but they assume 1 to 2 more years.
On December 23, 2021, just a day before her 22nd birthday, 2 dogs viciously attacked dog sitter Jacqueline Durand. She was hired to watch them while the owners were away and had no reason to believe they were aggressive. Days prior to the attack, Jacqueline had met the dogs with their owners present and felt they were well behaved. Jacqueline was also promised the dogs would be in a crate when she arrived to check on them, but she received a text from the owner claiming they hadn't had a chance to lock the dogs up before leaving. Their front door also had a sign that read, "Crazy dogs. Please don't knock or ring the bell. Call or text instead." Unfortunately for Jacqueline, the moment she opened the door, a boxer pit bull mix and a German shepherd lunged at her, knocking her to the ground. Within seconds, she was dragged from the front door to the living room by the ferocious dogs. Fearing for her life, she tried calling for help, but could barely talk after sustaining more than 800 bites during the 30-minute attack. Thankfully, the door alarm went off because it had been left open for so long. When the police arrived, they were greeted by the 2 highly agitated dogs and could hear faint whimpering inside.
Sam, can you hear me?
First responder body camera video shows the 2 dogs who attacked her, holding the police at bay, leaving Jacqueline agonizing for help.
We can't make entry because of the dogs.
It took 37 minutes before the paramedics felt it was safe enough for them to enter the home and get Jacqueline the help she desperately needed. They found her lying in a pool of blood with puncture wounds all over her legs. It was later determined the dogs had ripped off her jeans and shirt.
What do you remember about where they were attacking you?
My leg, my arm, my face the most. Especially when I felt the skin hanging from my face. I thought I was gonna die.
Jacqueline ended up losing 30% of her blood. Sadly, her ears, nose, and most of her face were disfigured. After being rushed to hospital with multiple life-threatening injuries, Jacqueline endured a 7-hour emergency surgery where doctors reconstructed her face. Thankfully, her recovery is going well, having had over 24 surgeries since the attack. She continues to share her inspiring journey of perseverance with followers on her YouTube and Instagram channel.
Jacqueline doesn't want to be seen as a victim, but rather an example. And that may be why she didn't hide the scars that showed the more than 800 bites on her body.
As for the 2 dogs, they were taken into police custody and a judge ultimately decided they should be euthanized. Let Jacqueline's story be a warning for anyone interested in dog sitting. Do your research to learn about a dog's history, breed, and behavior before agreeing to anything. Even though Jacqueline met the dogs days before her attack, they felt comfortable with their owners around and threatened without them. But German Shepherds and Pit Bulls are statistically 2 of the most dangerous breeds that are known for biting people. With their combative demeanor and muscular build, Pit Bulls have killed the most humans out of any other breed. They're responsible for 66% of all dog attacks in the US based on data from 2005 to 2017. Surprisingly, they don't have the most powerful bites, but more on that later. If you ever find yourself being attacked by a pit bull, or any dog for that matter, here are a few key survival tips. Be still. Running away in fear could incite the dog to chase you. Slowly get to higher ground if you can. Unlike cats, dogs aren't great climbers. If that's not an option, play dead while protecting your neck. Your first instinct might be to fight back, but this could make matters worse and anger the dog further. The Seattle Humane Society recommends to get down on the ground, pull your knees to your chest, clasp your hands behind your neck, put your elbows around your face. Protecting your neck is very important. A bite here could be fatal, especially if your carotid artery is pierced, which supplies blood to the brain. Throw a shirt, towel, or cloth over the dog's eyes if possible. Otherwise, you may have to wait for the dog to lose interest. If you're feeling brave, you can try to choke it or hit it with something heavy. If you have mace on hand, like what you might use on a bear, it could deter even the most dangerous dogs. But what should you do if you're being attacked by multiple dogs? Well, that's something Kylene Waltman learned the hard way. Before we jump into that story, subscribe to stay prepared for all life has to throw at you.
Doctor that done a surgery to remove her arms said that was the worst dog attack that he's ever seen.
While on a walk to her mother's house, 38-year-old Kylene Waltman was brutally attacked by 3 pit bulls and is only alive because of an area farmer who witnessed it. Thankfully, Avery Presley was driving past on his tractor that day. He found Kylene in a ditch being ravaged by the dogs. Avery grabbed his handgun and fired it in the air, which scared them off. Kylene was covered in bloody lacerations and had part of her tricep ripped off. She was so severely injured that she couldn't speak. The damage was so extreme that Avery, who had known her for 25 years, couldn't even recognize her. It wasn't until police pulled her ID from her pocket that Kylene was identified. After being airlifted to the hospital, she had both of her arms amputated, part of her colon, and a portion of her leg removed due to infection.
It was one of the more gruesome animal attacks I've ever seen.
Initially, doctors thought they were able to save enough muscle and tissue in her right arm to fit a prosthetic. Unfortunately, the damage done to both arms was so significant that prosthetics were ruled out as an option for either of them. After waking up from surgery, Waltman was unaware of her condition, constantly asking her mother to hold her hand while she was lying in the hospital bed. She spent 7 weeks in the hospital, enduring more than 10 surgeries, but has continued to struggle with the aftermath of the attack, physically, mentally, and financially. A GoFundMe was launched, raising over $360,000 to help with medical bills. A lawsuit was also filed against the county and the dog's owner, Justin Miner. He was arrested with multiple charges, including 3 counts of owning dangerous animals. The 3 dogs were euthanized following the attack, and 8 other dogs were taken from Miner's possession and sent to a shelter. If a group of dogs attacks you, the advice is more or less the same as dealing with a single dog. Protect your neck with your hands and curl into a ball. Call out for help if you can, while trying to stay still. If it isn't apparent by now, pit bulls aren't the safest pets. Whether in a group or alone, they can cause significant damage. Even well-trained pit bulls who are known to be affectionate. Just ask 20-year-old Brooklyn Corey. Skateboarder and model Brooklyn Corey was making strides in her career. From landing sponsorships to being featured in Vogue, she was building a large following online, focusing on being a voice for women in the skateboarding community. However, on September 3rd, 2020, while visiting her cousin in Arizona, her life changed forever. Brooklyn was a victim of a pit bull attack, and to this day, she has no idea why the dog she'd known for years lunged at her.
I was literally standing in the kitchen and I was petting his head while he was sitting down, and I slowly looked back. I did not do it aggressively, I did not do it quickly, I just looked back at him, and that's when he sprung off the ground and latched onto my face.
The pit bull, which weighed more than 100 pounds, clamped onto Brooklyn's lip for nearly a minute. It then started violently shaking and eventually released. That's when Brooklyn says she saw something peculiar.
When he released, I saw something fling and hit the wall and fall down. I stood up and I was like, wow, this is the biggest breath of fresh air I've ever taken in my life. I didn't realize that the dog had taken off my whole upper lip. I went into the bathroom and I kind of grabbed the sink and I looked up. I just looked like a skeleton.
She found everything from her nose down was completely ripped off. After being rushed to a hospital and isolated, as COVID-19 restrictions wouldn't allow Brooklyn any visitors, she began looking online for people who suffered from a similar injury. Once she realized no one had experienced the same trauma or documented their recovery online, Brooklyn decided to take action. She started to take photos and videos sharing her journey. This included posting to not only Instagram, but also YouTube, where she has done multiple vlogs and Q&As with followers. Brooklyn explained, "I genuinely wanted to share my story. I felt so alone in the hospital. I needed a community of difference in a world of perfect. So I just made sure to be super vulnerable and have it be a safe space to post what I wanted to post. I just wanted somebody else, if they were going through it, to be able to relate."
I was attacked by a pit bull.
Brooklyn has had 5 reconstructive surgeries, including the removal of a piece of flesh from her wrist to replace her upper lip, and a nose reconstruction. She's since been able to focus entirely on creating content full-time to inspire others like herself.
I'll see you guys there. I think November 3rd is a day to choose to smile, choose to be happy, and choose to live with what you have and appreciate everything that you have at the same time.
Although our stories have mostly featured pit bulls, they're not the only breed known for their dangerous behavior. This is the XL Bully, the largest breed of the American Bulldog, and possibly the deadliest. Following several vicious attacks on people, many of which have been fatal, the breed has either been banned or restricted in many countries. Sadly, the ban wasn't in place when an XL Bully nearly killed an 11-year-old girl who was running near a gas station. While out for a walk in Birmingham, England, the owner of an XL Bully lost control of his dog as it broke free of its collar. It lunged at the young girl, biting her arm. Its owner was able to hold the dog down after the initial attack, but it broke free again and targeted 2 men who had rushed to help. You can see in the Texaco CCTV footage just how vicious the dog was as it chased them. Yusuf Ahadzai, who ran the car wash next door, was bitten on the leg. He says, "I saw the girl be attacked. She was bitten. I saw the dog and I came out. I was really scared. If it wasn't for nearby witnesses intervening, the dog could have killed the young girl." Thankfully, she was taken to the hospital and discharged shortly after. The owner of the dog, a 60-year-old man, was arrested on suspicion of possessing a dog dangerously out of control. Sadly, XL Bully attacks appear to be a common issue in the UK, where in 2024 alone, 6 people, including children, have all lost their lives. The surge in attacks has led to a call for a ban on the breed, which some lawmakers have opposed. If you ever see a dog attack, call emergency services immediately for help. You should also avoid hitting the dog, as this may provoke it further and cause a more aggressive reaction. As I mentioned before, throwing something over the dog's eyes, such as a cloth, towel, or even a t-shirt may help. You also don't want to pull the person being attacked, as this could lead to more severe injuries if the dog refuses to let go. Sometimes, though, dog attack victims get help from the most unlikely source: cats. In 2014, 4-year-old Jeremy was playing on his driveway when a neighbor's 8-month-old Labrador Chow mix escaped and attacked him. After biting Jeremy and dragging him to the ground, the boy's cat, named Tara, sprung into action. She quickly came to his aid by jumping on the dog, leading to a chase. Jeremy would end up requiring 10 stitches in his leg where he was bitten, and Tara the cat would go on to become a viral sensation for her heroic efforts. She even has her own Instagram page and website. Tara, we salute you for your bravery. While pit bulls and XL bullies have a checkered history, it's not always the breed to blame. Experts often say that a dog's behavior is learned, and it's the owner's treatment of the dog that leads to violent encounters. Even though pit bulls tend to be involved in the most attacks, their bite force is nothing compared to the Turkish Kangal. They pack a whopping 743 psi. That's more than 3 times stronger than a pit bull's bite. Still, they're only banned or restricted in Denmark, Ukraine, and Belarus. To avoid being a victim of a dog attack, you need to be aware of your surroundings and understand a dog's behavior prior to a potential attack. Often, their bodies will stiffen, and sometimes they'll growl and show their teeth. If any of this occurs, don't run. Just slowly back away and avoid eye contact, as this will make you appear less threatening.
The sound was just so loud. Pow, pow, pow.
On October 3rd, 2003, Roy Horn took to the stage thinking his show would be as spectacular as the tens of thousands of performances he and his partner, Siegfried Fischbacher, had done before.
And tonight, this is first appearance at Armor Command.
Things were going as planned until the unthinkable happened.
We kind of nipped at his hand.
And then Roy started tapping him on the snout or the head with the microphone.
And Roy fell over, and Manticore very quietly reaches over and picks up Roy like a cub. But you can't pick up a human by the back of the neck.
Following the horrifying incident, Siegfried and Roy defended the actions of the tiger they had raised since he was a cub. The two magicians claimed that Roy had suffered a stroke during his performance, and that their white tiger, Manticore, was only trying to protect him.
You believe that Manticore realized you were in trouble and just picked you up and took you off stage for help.
Yeah, that's how vulnerable they are.
However, their animal trainer, Chris Lawrence, told a different story.
His actions in trying to possibly save the routine or rectify the situation actually ended up complicating it.
Why did their animal trainer think they were covering up the truth? Did Roy's tiger really try to save his life? And was this the only attack at one of their performances? Before we claw into this unbelievable story, make sure to like and subscribe for more survival videos. In 1957, Siegfried and Roy met for the first time as teenagers while working on a German cruise ship. Siegfried worked as a cabin steward and Roy was a bellboy and a waiter. During his time on the cruise ship, Siegfried began performing magic for his passengers, and it drew enough of a crowd that he was given his own show. Roy was absolutely mesmerized by him, but he knew something in his act was missing. Roy offered to be Siegfried's assistant, and the two began performing several shows together. With Roy's love and experience with animals, he quickly convinced Siegfried that they needed to step up their game. It wasn't long before they went from pulling a rabbit out of a hat to incorporating a cheetah into their act. Yeah, seriously, a cheetah. The duo continued performing at clubs in Europe for 5 years until they got their first big break in the mid-60s. Grace Kelly invited the showmen to perform at her annual Red Cross Gala in Monte Carlo. It was here that a Las Vegas producer scouted them and changed their lives forever. The dynamic duo was offered shows in Sin City at 2 hotels, and within a few years, they were regular performers. The buzz for their act was building, and so were the skeletons in their closet, but more on that later. After hundreds of shows over the course of the 80s, it wasn't long before they signed a record-breaking deal with casino developer Steve Wynn, worth a staggering $57 million. They were to be an integral attraction at Vegas's legendary Mirage Hotel. The contract secured Siegfried and Roy for 5 years, but this would be the start of one of the city's most successful shows ever.
The most successful entertainment attraction beyond Elvis or Frank Sinatra.
The partners would use their newfound fortune to purchase the Jungle Palace, a $10 million Moroccan-style villa, and Little Bavaria, a separate 100-acre property where they housed all their pets. Little Bavaria allowed their 63 tigers and 16 lions to roam freely. The animals had their own paradise, with access spanning from Roy's bedroom to the pool. It's important to note that none of them were declawed. But that didn't stop Roy from meditating with at least one of his tigers daily. This was just one of the many ways he would connect with the animals. Roy raised his wild cats from birth, using what he called affection conditioning to build a special bond with them. This included sleeping with the tigers until they were a year old. For Roy, they were family.
Not one of them has ever really turned on him.
No, I guess I'm very fortunate to have a good family.
He explained that when he was given an animal's trust, it felt like the most beautiful thing in the world. Unfortunately for him, that trust was broken on October 3rd, 2003, when he was attacked by one of his tigers. The night before their infamous performance, Roy celebrated his 59th birthday, along with Siegfried and their friends in the business. One of them roasted Roy about his age, suggesting he retired. Roy snapped back, he'll retire only when he can't do it anymore. In peak physical shape, Roy was known for swinging 30 feet above the audience and handling 600-pound tigers. Night after night, the two men would wow audiences without any issues. I mean, there was one time in the 1970s, but we'll get to that later. Given their success performing over 30,000 times alongside tigers, lions, and even elephants, no one expected their next performance to be their last. Around 8:15 p.m., about 45 minutes into their show, Roy brought out Manticore, a 380-pound white tiger born in Mexico. It's believed the tiger became distracted by an audience member and started making its way to the front of the stage. To calm the audience's nerves and get back to the routine, Roy joked that Manticore wanted to say hello to the crowd. Quickly, Roy stepped in front of Manticore, placing himself between the tiger and the front row, which was within striking distance. As Manticore continued walking toward him, Roy commanded the animal to lie down, but the tiger refused. That's when things went from bad to worse. Manticore then gripped Roy's right wrist with his paws. While trying to regain control of the tiger's chain, Roy used the microphone he held in his other hand to tap the tiger on the nose while yelling "release." At this point, the tiger obeyed Roy's command, but while struggling to pull himself away, Roy tripped over the tiger's leg and fell backwards. Within seconds, Manticore was on top of him. He then bit Roy's neck, shocking the audience and his longtime partner Siegfried, who tried to put an end to the chaos. Those who witnessed the show claimed that Roy was dragged 30 feet off stage by the neck, like a rag doll, with blood pooling everywhere. Once backstage, stagehands used the bottom of a fire extinguisher to physically hit Manticore on the head, which led to him releasing Roy. The tiger then went right back into his cage. While waiting for emergency services, a crew member was able to stop the bleeding from Roy's neck. Shortly after, it would be determined that the tiger's teeth had torn Roy's jugular vein, narrowly missing his carotid artery, which would have instantly killed him. Amidst all the chaos and Roy struggling to breathe, he made sure those around him heard what some believed might have been his last words: "Don't shoot the cat." A trauma team was assembled at the University Medical Center in Vegas, and the show's producer, Kenneth Feld, told more than 200 cast members that the show was done. Forever. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but this wasn't the case for Siegfried and Roy. News of the attack spread like wildfire.
Breaking news, one of the rare tigers in Siegfried and Roy attack.
The tiger that attacked Roy. Officials are reporting that Horn was attacked by one of those tigers.
Within hours of Roy's rushed hospitalization, people started to gather outside both the Mirage and University Medical Center, anxiously waiting for updates. Many brought candles and were simply there to support one of Vegas's most loved performers. At one point, sources claim Roy actually flatlined and had to be revived while on the operating table. Other reports claim he was near death 3 times, but somehow managed to be wheeled out of surgery and into another unit of the hospital within hours of the attack. His windpipe was crushed, making it impossible for him to swallow or speak. To help him breathe, Roy was placed on a ventilator. Unfortunately for him, this was just the beginning of a long recovery. The following day, it was revealed he had suffered a pretty big stroke, in the words of his doctor, and was sent back into surgery. To relieve swelling in his brain, a quarter of his skull was removed. He was also paralyzed on his left side, leaving many wondering if he'd ever fully recover. Roy's neurosurgeon, Dr. Derek Duke, told the press it was miraculous that he was alive. Just weeks after the attack, Roy was airlifted to UCLA Medical Center, where he would continue his rehab. By mid-November, he was taken off of a ventilator and his motor skills continued to improve. Throughout it all, Siegfried was right by his partner's side, as he was during their tens of thousands of performances. Given the significant loss of blood Roy suffered and the extensive brain damage, many thought he would need assistance doing the most basic of movements, including walking. To no one's surprise, the idea of the two ever performing again was hardly even a thought. But that didn't discourage Roy, who knew they still had at least one more show left. By late January 2004, surgeons had removed Roy's tracheal tube, allowing him to eat and talk. And like magic, Roy was moving and walking again. Things were looking up for the two Vegas stars again, but an investigation into their show's safety took a turn for the worse. This wasn't the first time one of their animals attacked a performer. In 1976, before Siegfried and Roy had a residency at the Mirage, the two performed at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. At one point, they were booked to work alongside a family of acrobats known as the Seven Alexanders. Back then, the magician's show involved a tiger, a lion, and 2 leopards, all kept in cages backstage near the rest of the cast. This included a 10-year-old named Sean Stanek, who claims he was attacked by one of Siegfried and Roy's escaped leopards just 20 minutes before showtime.
There's a security guard, he says, "You guys have to move. They're gonna start bringing animals in." And I heard a crash, and I looked, and I'm staring at the leopard.
The cat saw him, they locked eyes, and that's when Sean knew he was in a lot of trouble.
Fearing for his life, Sean ran down the hallway toward his dressing room, but the leopard quickly pounced on his back. He explained it felt like it was tearing at his neck, and with the help of his mother and other cast members, they got the animal off of him. When all was said and done, the leopard had bitten Stanek 14 times, leaving him with puncture wounds all over his neck and head. He would spend 3 weeks hospitalized and survive the attack. No thanks to Siegfried or Roy, who didn't even apologize for the incident. The family would sue the MGM Grand and the show's producers, but the media downplayed the entire thing, claiming Stanek was a juggler who suffered a scratch backstage. But this wasn't the only time the pair tried to change the narrative surrounding an attack. Just a year after Roy's terrifying attack on stage, he did an interview with People magazine claiming that his tiger Manticore was actually trying to save him after noticing something wasn't right. Roy believes that Manticore dragged him by the neck off stage to get help. Now, tigers are known to carry their cubs by the neck, but animal trainer Chris Lawrence doubts this was the case.
The point that I realized that things were kind of going sideways was when Roy turned Manticore around and he ended up with his face in Roy's midsection. I remember vividly thinking, here he comes.
He argues Roy was attacked because the tiger was confused. After a rushed rehearsal that night, Lawrence noticed Manticore missed his initial cue during showtime. Roy tried to improvise, which agitated the tiger. Routine is everything when it comes to training big cats.
I think his actions in trying to possibly save the routine or rectify the situation actually ended up complicating it.
Lawrence also mentioned that prior to the incident, he was scolded by both Siegfried and Roy for trying to help in their performances. The two never wanted to own up to mistakes in front of a live audience. Roy also built up the illusion that he trained all of the animals himself. Lawrence explained that as the years went on, Roy treated the cats more like props than anything else, and the level of care needed for the animals was dwindling. To maintain their image, Siegfried and Roy never wanted to admit what really happened, even years after the attack. It's important to remember that even when animals are trained, they're still animals. It's a miracle that Siegfried and Roy performed as many shows as they did without any other mishaps. Roy was truly lucky to be alive following his attack, and you'd think after such a traumatic incident, he would never want to be in a tiger's presence again, let alone the one that attacked him. But in 2009, Siegfried and Roy performed one last time, wanting their final show to be as successful as all the others leading up to the one that changed their lives forever. Although the two couldn't move as they used to, especially Roy, who was using Siegfried to maintain his balance, they still dazzled the audience. They made sure to include Manticore in their performance, showing that after all they had been through, the illusionists still trusted him. The topic of animals being held in captivity at zoos or for live performances has always been controversial. Especially after Tiger King swept the world during the 2020 pandemic, many realized how poorly big cats are treated in captivity. As for Siegfried and Roy, even after their shows finished, many of their ferocious pets were housed at an exhibition called the Secret Garden and Dolphin Habitat at the Mirage, where cubs would be taken away from their mothers shortly after birth. The dolphin habitat, well, if you can call it that, was more or less a big dingy pool. Although the pair claimed it was a conservation for the animals, many argued it was far from that, noting it was nothing like their natural habitat. It also didn't help that several dolphins died since the attraction opened, earning it the title the Dolphin Death Pool. Yikes. Since 1990, when it first opened, 12 of the pool's 22 dolphins unfortunately died. With scheduled performances required from the dolphins almost daily, it's believed their deaths could be attributed to the stressful and unnatural environments they were placed in. The Mirage shut down the exhibition in 2022 after receiving a ton of pushback from organizations like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. It's clear that animals in captivity, especially show animals, can be pushed to a breaking point. Roy was lucky to have survived his ordeal, as the same can't be said for Don Brancheau, a SeaWorld performer who was killed by Tilikum the orca in front of a live audience.
On February 24th, 2010, during the Dine with Shamu show at SeaWorld in Florida, guests were enjoying their lunch while watching trainer Don Brancheau interact with the star of the show, Tilikum, the largest orca at SeaWorld. But this lovely afternoon was about to take a dark turn.
To this day, you haven't been able to get the images out of your mind about what happened that day.
Correct.
Can you take us back to what you actually witnessed at the park?
I showed up at the pools where Tilikum had taken Dawn into, and it was very chaotic.
Dawn was at the edge of the pool rubbing Tilikum's head as part of her end-of-show routine. What happened next is remembered differently by witnesses. Some say Tilikum grabbed her by her ponytail. Others claim it was her arm or shoulder. Whichever it was, in a split second, Dawn was gone. The massive mammal had pulled her into the pool. The audience watched in horror, unable to comprehend the tragedy unfolding before their eyes. What followed was a terrifying scene as Tilikum violently attacked Dawn, holding her underwater for 45 agonizing minutes. What made Tilikum snap? Why did the whale hold on to Dawn's body for so long? And what happened to the footage of the attack? Well, to understand the tragic events of that day, let's take a step back and look at the life and career of Dawn Brancho. Dawn's love for marine animals began at an early age. During a family vacation to Orlando, she got her heart set on becoming a Shamu trainer. She pursued her dream with passion, eventually joining SeaWorld and working with orcas for 15 years. Dawn was dedicated to her job, maintaining incredible physical fitness to handle the demanding work with orcas. She ran marathons, cycled, and lifted weights to stay in top shape. Her hard work and charisma made her the face of the Shamu show, bringing in millions of dollars for SeaWorld. And despite her love for the job, Dawn was also well aware of the dangers. She often acknowledged the risks involved in working with killer whales. And the risks were real. There have been more than 40 documented safety incidents involving trainers and orcas at SeaWorld and other parks. So it should be no surprise that this wasn't Tilikum's first offense. Dawn was actually his third victim. Tilikum's story is one of tragedy and neglect. At just 2 years old, he was taken from his mother in the wild Icelandic waters and sent to a park called Sealand of the Pacific in Victoria, Canada. His name, Tilikum, means friend in Chinook, but his life was anything but friendly. At Sealand, Tilikum faced harsh and inhumane conditions. Food was often withheld as a training technique, and he was regularly targeted and bitten by 2 alpha female orcas with whom he shared a tank. Performing 8 shows a day, 7 days a week, took a toll on him. Animal experts had long warned that Tilikum's aggressive tendencies, exacerbated by years of abuse and stress, made him a ticking time bomb. And on top of all that, Tilikum was a transient whale, a type known for their aggressive hunting behavior. Transient orcas are stealthy and ambush their targets, primarily marine mammals. After years of this relentless performance schedule, Tilikum was about to have his first taste of blood. The orca's aggression first turned deadly in 1991 with the death of Kelty Byrne. She was a 21-year-old marine biology student who was working at Sealand when she slipped and fell into the pool. She tried to come up for air, but Tilikum dragged her to the bottom of the pool twice, where he and other orcas bit her and held her until she drowned. According to some witnesses, Tilikum grabbed Kelty while the other 2 orcas prevented the park's staff from helping her. This shocking incident led to the closure of Sealand a few months later. Tilikum was transferred to SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida in 1992. 7 years later, the killer whale would claim his second victim.
Sheriff deputies have identified the 27-year-old man found dead in a killer whale's tank at SeaWorld. The victim is Daniel P. Dukes from South Carolina.
On January 6, 1999, Daniel Dukes, a homeless man, managed to sneak into SeaWorld at night and enter Tilikum's pool. The next morning, Dukes' body was found draped over Tilikum's back. His body was severely mutilated. though SeaWorld claimed he had drowned. The incident raised serious questions about the safety and ethics of keeping such powerful and intelligent animals in captivity. Animal rights activists pointed to the conditions Tilikum was kept in as a major factor in his aggression. Trainers often allowed other whales to attack Tilikum until he bled, and he was kept in isolation for long periods of time. Marine mammal trainer Rick O'Barry suggested that Tilikum's violent behavior was a result of extreme boredom and frustration, comparing his captivity to a human living in a bathroom their whole life. And this brings us back to Don Brancho, who always treated animals with love and respect. Despite Tilikum's troubled history, Don Brancho formed a strong bond with him. Some trainers believed that Tilikum loved Don, making the attack on her even more shocking. On that fateful day in February 2010, Don's routine interaction with Tilikum turned deadly. After pulling her into the water, Tilikum thrashed her around, causing severe injuries. No one knows for sure why Tilikum hung on to Don's body for so long underwater. As incredibly intelligent animals, orcas are very deliberate with their actions. Some people believe it was a desperate attempt to fight back. It might have been all the roughhousing, the constant demands of performing, or maybe the compounded years of abuse that finally caused the whale to snap. An autopsy revealed that Dawn died from drowning and blunt force trauma.
She suffered broken ribs, a broken sternum, dislocated elbow and knee, and abrasions on her upper back. The death of Dawn Brancho is the result of drowning and traumatic injuries.
Initially, SeaWorld claimed that Dawn had fallen into the pool and it was her fault for having a ponytail near Tilikum. But former trainers and witnesses disagreed.
And I got more infuriated when I came home and saw the spokesperson for SeaWorld saying she slipped and fell into the tank, which was not what happened at all.
When Dawn was killed, investigators and OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, got SeaWorld's video footage and photos of the incident. News organizations wanted access to the records, but Dawn's family insisted that they be kept private out of respect. In the aftermath of Dawn's passing, SeaWorld implemented significant changes. The incident raised serious questions about the safety protocols at SeaWorld and the ethics of keeping orcas in captivity. They banned trainers from entering the water with orcas, aiming to prevent future tragedies. OSHA discovered this wasn't an isolated case. In the 2 decades before Dawn's death, SeaWorld had documented 100 instances of aggression or precursors to aggression, with 12 of the incidents resulting in trainer injuries or death. Dawn's death and Tilikum's story became the focal points of the documentary Blackfish, which exposed the dark side of SeaWorld and the captivity of orcas. The film had a profound impact, leading to a significant drop in SeaWorld's attendance and revenue.
Boycott SeaWorld!
Public outrage grew, and several music artists canceled their performances at SeaWorld in protest. In 2016, SeaWorld announced that they were ending their killer whale breeding program and said that the orcas in their care will be the final generation at the park.
We interact with them day in, day out. We're working together and having a lot of fun as well.
The tragic death of Dawn Brancho raised important questions about the ethics of keeping intelligent sentient beings like orcas in captivity. While Tilikum's actions were shocking, they were also a symptom of a much larger problem. Relationships between humans and wild animals will always be dangerous. And some people, like the crocodile hunter, push their luck to the limit until one day it's all over.
I held on as much as I could. I was clawing onto her arm and I was trying to get the other arm up to try and grab her, and I couldn't. And then she was gone.
As long as was there to help pull me out, I'm dead. If the numbers aren't controlled, there will be more deaths, without a doubt.
With one of the strongest bites in the world at 3,700 psi, saltwater crocodiles consider anything and everything prey. Unfortunately, two friends celebrating the end of one of their cancer treatments learn just how strong their bite can be.
Just trying to fight, and then all of a sudden we were taken again. It was the same amount of force. We were taken.
But the Nile crocodile can be just as deadly. So deadly that one infamous killer croc took the lives of over 200 African villagers, spurring a decades-long hunt. And with an even stronger bite force than saltwater crocs, crunching in at 5,000 psi, I understand why they hunted the damn thing.
We're gonna catch this crocodile now. We're gonna trap him. It'll be difficult, but we're gonna get him.
How did the saltwater crocodile go from an endangered species to an everyday threat to Australians? What key survival tactic saved this miner's life? And is this infamous crocodile serial killer still lurking in the waters of Africa? There are 16 different species of crocodile, the most prominent being the saltwater and Nile crocodile. Their notoriety is likely due to their terrifyingly high kill counts. Saltwater crocodiles can be found in Australia and Southeast Asia, while the Nile crocodile is found across parts of Africa. They are responsible for killing approximately 1,000 people annually, with over 80% of the deaths coming from their razor-sharp teeth. Not only are croc attacks more common than shark attacks, but they're often less survivable. Known for being incredibly territorial, stealthy, and aggressive predators, crocodiles fear no one. Some towns and villages in Australia and Africa use rivers or lakes for fishing, washing clothes, or even just getting water. And this is often where crocodiles sit, patiently waiting to snatch their next unsuspecting victim. For Cindy Waldron and her friend Leanne Mitchell, that's exactly what a 13-foot saltwater crocodile was doing.
And then Cindy cried out to me. And she said, "It's got me."
Cindy and Leanne's friendship dates back to high school. The two formed such a close bond that they considered each other sisters. When Leanne was diagnosed with breast cancer, Cindy was by her side every step of the way, putting her best friend's recovery at the forefront of her life. After treatments and surgery, Leanne was officially in remission. Cindy and Leanne planned a trip to the Daintree rainforest off the coast of northern Queensland, Australia, to celebrate. The two stayed at a friend's place in Thornton Beach, a remote area known for not having cell phone reception, electricity, or many people.
We were just so full of this joy of being together in that place, alone. We just wanted to run around, and that was exactly what we did. And in the process of doing that, we ended on the water's edge. We ended up on the water's edge.
Not going waist deep into the water, the pair didn't think they were in much danger, even if it was nighttime. Although the waters were known to be crocodile infested, with signs warning visitors of that fact, the two didn't think they would be at risk so close to the shore.
It was really dark. Cindy's back was to the water and mine was to the beach. And we were laughing.
That's when Cindy felt something and cried out to her friend, "It's got me." Initially, Leanne thought Cindy was brushed by seaweed and tried to calm her down. She grabbed Cindy's arm and told her, "I got you." Then, it became clear that something powerful was in the waters beneath them.
We were pulled. We were pulled. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
The croc pulled Cindy with such force that Leanne, who was still holding on to one of Cindy's arms, was yanked deeper into the water alongside her.
I realized there was something, and I put my hand out, and I felt the top of its head. Then I started trying to punch and trying to hit and trying to fight, and I was screaming.
The crocodile continued to pull them with all its might. Despite Leanne's best efforts to save her friend, sadly, it was too powerful. Within seconds, Cindy was gone. Leanne bravely dove underwater to find her, but without the ability to see anything, all she could do was feel around. With no luck finding her friend in the darkness, Leanne had only one thing left to do.
I wanted to help, and the only help I could give was by screaming Sally's name. It's screaming. Screaming for her to come back.
Leanne ran into a nearby business after returning to shore and found someone to call the authorities. She was taken to the hospital for shock treatment and puncture wounds in her arm. A search mission began, and a 13-foot crocodile was caught and killed. After further investigation, Leanne's worst nightmare came true. Sydney's remains were inside the croc.
What happens if you come across something like this in the wild?
You just wouldn't want to be in the water with something like this trying to get you, you know, like you wouldn't have much of a chance, I'm afraid.
What would you do in a situation like this? Although it may seem impossible to survive a crocodile attack, never say never. If you find yourself in croc country, you'll want to avoid any waters where they may be hunting for their next victim. Be aware of your surroundings, and if you spot one, back away slowly. If you're on land, run in a straight line, as crocs can only move at 10 miles per hour. There's a common tip to run in a zigzag, but it turns out that it's just a myth. The goal here is to get as far away as quickly as possible. If you're in water, don't make sudden movements. Splashing water in its direction is one of the worst things you can do, as this can attract more attention. If a crocodile attacks, you'll want to fight back and aim for its eyes, as it's one of their most sensitive spots. And if you're planning a trip to Australia, that tip may just save your life. The country has been dealing with an ever-growing saltwater crocodile problem, and they're showing up in more populated areas. Following World War II, the saltwater croc population significantly declined as they were regularly hunted for their skins. Facing extinction, the country passed a law in 1971 that banned hunting them, which is still in place today. However, 6 decades later, the saltwater crocodile population has risen to unsafe numbers, with over 200,000 of them estimated to be calling various bodies of water across the country home. For Aussie Todd Barristow, when he cast his reel, things got very real.
I ended up facing him like this on the mud, in the water, with just his snout sticking out. On both my legs, just growling like that. He can just growl at me. And I'm like, this is it, he's gonna pull me in.
In 2011, 28-year-old miner Todd Barristow and his dog went fishing in Weipa, North Queensland. Known for having more crocs than people, Weipa is referred to as croc country. Queensland's government website warns that even if an area doesn't have a crocodile warning sign, assume there are crocs in the water. But despite having that knowledge, many fishermen willingly fish in croc-infested waters.
You reckon it's safe here, dude?
It's not 100% safe, that's why I certainly keep a good eye out.
You reckon you'll see it coming?
Well, maybe not. You don't see the one that gets you, that's what they say.
It turns out what they say is true. When a massive crocodile attacked Todd, he definitely didn't see it coming. Within the blink of an eye, he was waist deep in the water, with his legs caught in the jaws of the croc. Todd attempted to pry the crocodile's mouth open to get it to release its jaws, which only made matters worse.
And I went, tried to put my hand down and try to get him off, and he took another bite, and that's when he must have pinned my hand to the leg.
With both legs and one of his hands trapped in its jaws, Todd reached for a mangrove branch to avoid being pulled under.
So I started just yanking this one as hard as I could. I managed to pull it off.
Pull it free.
Pull it free, but at the same time I pulled my finger off. But what's the finger?
While being attacked, Todd's dog, Dig, unfortunately wasn't much help. Rather than barking, it was sniffing around. In an act of desperation, Todd attempted to sacrifice Dig for his own life.
So I grabbed him and I threw him over my back, hoping that he'd take him, you know, because I've heard a lot of stories, crocs like dogs, you know.
So you threw your dog in the water?
Threw the dog in the water, hoping he'd let go.
As a sacrifice?
Sacrifice, so I can go, get out.
Let's just hope they patched up their relationship later. We've seen what angry dogs can do. The croc was not interested in Dig and continued crunching down on Todd's legs. After tirelessly fighting to break free, his last resort was to yell for help. Thankfully, fellow miner Kevin Bevan heard Todd's cries and quickly jumped into action. Kevin used a nearby mangrove branch to hit the crocodile on the head, hoping it would let go. He then managed to pull Todd free.
You could hear him screaming, could you?
Yeah, mate, he was bellowing for his life. Bloody screaming. I ran out there and latched onto him, and he was just saying, "Don't let go of me, don't let go of me, it's got me."
After a 30-minute struggle, Todd was no longer in danger of being eaten alive, but was in desperate need of medical attention. He needed to be airlifted to a nearby hospital with both his legs broken and severe puncture wounds, dislocated joints, a missing finger, and cuts to his hands. Thankfully, his injuries weren't life-threatening, and after surgeries and rehab, he was able to recover. Todd's fighting with everything he had in him is a key reason he survived. This allowed Kevin to come to his aid and ultimately rescue him. Let Todd's story remind us that when pushed to its absolute limits, the human spirit is much stronger and more resilient than we could ever imagine. While saltwater crocodiles spur terror to Australians, hundreds of African villagers have fallen victim to one giant killer beast who could still be lurking in the waters of Burundi to this day.
We're gonna catch this crocodile now. We're gonna trap him. It'll be difficult, but we're gonna get him.
One bite from a Nile croc is enough to crush every bone in your body. It's hard for experts to be certain, but it's estimated on average, Nile crocs kill 200 people annually. Found in fresh waters, mangrove swamps, and of course the Nile Basin, run-ins with humans are more common than I'd like to admit. And let's just say it's rare for a croc to be on the losing end of those encounters. The average Nile croc is usually around 16 feet and weighs 500 pounds. But the larger ones can reach up to 20 feet and weigh over 1,600 pounds. And then there is Gustav, believed to be one of the largest and deadliest crocs across the continent. This 20-foot, 2,000-pound monstrosity is known for his terrifyingly high kill count, estimated to be around 300 people.
There's the beast.
Gustav can be found roaming the northeastern shores of Lake Tanganyika, and over the years, he's garnered a reputation similar to that of the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot. The only difference is that multiple confirmed sightings of this killer crocodile have occurred, as have numerous missions to capture it and end its killing ways. Patrice Fay, a self-taught naturalist, made it his life's mission to capture Gustav. In 2004, Patrice and a film crew documented their attempt, but unfortunately for them, the beast did not fall for their trap. In 2019, a report claimed that he had finally been killed, although there was no evidence or much concrete proof to back it up. Many think Gustav, estimated to be nearly 100 years old, is still roaming the waters, snatching up unsuspecting victims and etching his name into the history books. There is only one way to find out if he's still alive, and it won't be me going down there, so give me a shout when you do. My advice for surviving a Nile crocodile attack is the same as for surviving a saltwater crocodile attack. Avoid them at all costs. Aim for the eyes and head if you are being attacked by one. Fight back as hard as you can because these things show no mercy, often eating their prey alive. Crocs are also known for their signature death roll, a maneuver often used to rip off chunks of flesh or bones out of sockets. You can think of this as a crocodile's deadly finishing move, if this was a video game. And they're also smart enough to know that most of their prey can't breathe underwater and will intentionally drown larger targets. Now, knowing how dangerous crocs can be, I hope you'll do whatever you can to avoid croc-infested waters. Some people, however, ignore warnings often until it's too late. When it comes to crocs or any wild animal, respecting their space and knowing the dangers of your environment will significantly increase your chances of survival. Unfortunately for the Japanese soldiers fighting for Ramree Island during World War II, their knowledge, or lack thereof, ultimately ended up leading to one of the worst crocodile feeding frenzies in history.
Being attacked by a grizzly is rare, but being attacked by the same grizzly twice in one day is exceptionally rare. For outdoorsman Todd Orr, it's something he never would have imagined happening to him well out on his morning hike. What started as a beautiful stroll in the Montana mountains quickly turned into a bloody, living nightmare.
And
and immediately she was on top of me. And I just went down on my face and wrapped my arms around the back of my neck and head to protect my body and kind of curled up in a ball face down.
But this would just be the start of what would turn into an unbelievable survival story. Just when he thought he'd made it out of the woods alive, the bear came back for seconds.
At the last second, I thought I heard something, started to turn, and here she was again, just 10 or 15 feet behind me and coming wide open. I didn't have time to, had bear spray in my hand, I had a pistol here, I didn't have time to use either one. She hit me from behind, knocked me right in the dirt on my face. Her first bite was in my left arm, and it broke the ulna bone and ripped a bunch of tendons and muscle out.
Why was the grizzly hunting him? What should you do if your bear spray doesn't work? And what ultimately saved Todd's life? Before we tear into this one, make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing survival stories.
My name is Todd Orr. I'm a trails engineer with the Forest Service, and I'm also a custom knife maker and owner of Skyblade Knives.
Todd lives in Montana, known as Big Sky Country. It's home to hundreds of species of animals, notably moose, mountain goats, bison, and you guessed it, bears. In fact, the official animal of Montana is the grizzly bear. Fatal grizzly attacks are rare, but they do happen. Since 2020, there have been a little over a dozen in North America. We're responsible for over 71% of deaths by grizzlies, often because our curiosity gets the best of us. But even for an experienced outdoorsman like Todd, there's always a risk of being attacked, no matter how safe you think you are. And in 2016, his life would change forever.
It was October 1st, a blue sky fall day, and I just wanted to get outside and do some hiking and look for some animals up in the mountains. So I got to the trailhead about 2 hours before daylight and spent an hour and a half hiking in the dark, and I wanted to be up as high as I could in the mountains right at daylight. And right before daylight, I stepped out into this meadow, and there was a sow grizzly and 2 young cubs about 100 yards away, and we saw each other at the same time. And that sow just turned and ran up the trail and over the ridge, and I thought, this is a good bear, she's gone, she doesn't like humans. So I was going to wait a couple minutes and then continue in the opposite direction. And I took a few steps and heard something behind me, and I turned, and this sow had dropped her cubs and circled around probably to get my wind, and then she came right in as a charge off the ridge and just wide open down the hill, 35, 40 miles an hour, and the brush was just flying. She had her ears laid back, she's low to the ground, just a full attack charge. And I just instinctively reached down, grabbed my bear spray, pulled out the safety clip, and looked back up, and she was at like 30 feet coming wide open still. So I just gave her a full blast of bear spray and kind of stepped back, and just her momentum carried her right through that bear spray.
When packing for any outing in the forest, bear spray should always be at the top of your list. But having bear spray handy and knowing how to use it are two different things. First things first, you always want to make sure you have your spray at the ready. I recommend having it in a holster so that in a situation like Todd's, you're ready to defend yourself instantly. It'd be a shame if your spray was tucked away somewhere in your bag while a grizzly was charging toward you. You also need to know how to aim the bear spray. If you're taller than a charging bear, shooting the spray in front of you with your arm extended won't help much. Instead, lower the can at an angle towards the bear's face and fire away. Even if the bear is not directly in front of you, the lingering spray may still be effective. Start with a 1-second burst of the spray and continue with that pattern until the bear retreats. Statistics show that bear spray works more than 90% of the time, but it didn't seem to help in Todd's case. Or did it?
Immediately she was on top of me, and I just went down on my face and wrapped my arms around the back of my neck and head to protect my body and kind of curled up in a ball face down. And she bit me 4 or 5 times on my right arm and shoulder, and then she started coughing from that bear spray, and then she just took off. That quick, she was gone. So it only lasted a few seconds, but I had a number of puncture wounds and kind of like, wow, I just survived a grizzly bear attack.
If you're ever attacked by a grizzly, playing dead, laying face down, and covering your neck is your safest move. This increases your chance of survival, as one swipe or bite of your neck could lead to a quick death. And it's not a good idea to fight back, as this will likely cause the grizzly to attack more aggressively. However, there are some exceptions. If the bear is persistently attacking and not letting up, you eventually need to fight back. These situations may be rare, but they do happen. Aim for the bear's face, hitting it with whatever you can find. Of course, if you can get your bear spray off before the attack, you'll want to do that. It's likely what saved Todd's life, at least after the first attack.
I picked myself up and said, all right, I need to go to the hospital and get some stitches. So I started down the trail, and maybe 5 minutes later, there's a stream I had to cross, and I was just about to walk across the creek, and it was pretty loud. And at the last second, I thought I heard something, started to turn, and here she was again, just 10 or 15 feet behind me and coming wide open. I didn't have time to, had bear spray in my hand, I had a pistol here, I didn't have time to use either one. She hit me from behind, knocks me right in the dirt on my face, and just curled up in a ball again, trying to protect the back of my head and my vitals. Her first bite was in my left arm, and it broke the ulna bone and ripped a bunch of tendons and muscle out. And that kind of made me wince, and I was like, made a noise, and that just turned her into a frenzy. And she just started picking me up, grabbed me by the backpack or my shoulder, picked me up, shake me like a rag doll, and then tossed me to the side. And I'd roll over here 20 feet out of the way, and I'd just roll face down again and back into that position to try to protect myself. And immediately she'd be back on top of me and biting and trashing on me again and throwing me around, and just lasted for a couple minutes. And then she kind of stopped, and maybe the eeriest part of the whole situation was I'm curled up in a ball face down, and she's got her claws pinned in my lower back and all of her weight on me, and I'm trying not to make a sound, just trying to play dead. And she's sniffing the back of my neck, and I can smell her, and I can, out of the corner of my eye, I can see her eye and her head right here at one point. And she would sniff and then kind of nip on me and bite me, and just testing to see if I was still a threat or if I was incapacitated or dead. And finally, I guess she decided I wasn't a threat anymore, and she stepped off and disappeared.
So Todd survived the first attack thanks to his bear spray, but why did the bear just leave him after the second attack? There could be multiple reasons, but the most likely would be that the bear either felt Todd was no longer a threat, or that the mama grizzly left to bring her cubs over for a feast. Grizzlies don't usually see humans as prey, so the reason for the initial attack was likely to keep her cubs safe. Once Todd started moving after the first attack was over, the grizzly, now in a heightened state of mind, likely picked up his scent or heard him nearby. So she likely came back to finish what she started.
And so I'm laying there, and my face is all bloody from this ripped open scalp and tendons sticking out of my arm, and I'm afraid to move because I don't know where she is for sure. Finally, I thought, well, if she comes back again and attacks me a third time, then I'm probably not going to survive this, so I need to get out of here. And so I slowly reached my arm up and kind of wiped the blood out of my face and my eyes and looked both directions. And I didn't see her anywhere, but my pistol was laying over there in the dirt, so it had been ripped off of my body. So I kind of dove for the pistol, hammer back, ready just in case. She was gone. So I picked everything up. This arm was useless. The tendons were tore out. My wrist was all curled over and cramped. So I tucked the pistol in my armpit, bear spray in this hand, and started hiking down the trail. Just had 4 miles to go. So after maybe 15 minutes of hiking, I was thinking about, how are the wounds? Do I need to put a tourniquet on or bandaging? Do I have severed artery or something? I'm going to bleed to death before I get to the truck. So I stopped and checked my body over, and everything looked okay. I had a lot of puncture wounds and cuts, but nothing bleeding profusely. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to bleed to death. Keep going to the truck. You need to get out of here. Get to safety.
In a perfect bear attack scenario, you'd want to have a first aid kit with you, but that's not always the case. What could you do if you were in Todd's situation, alone, without any bandages or wraps? Depending on how severely injured you are, you'd want to use a piece of your clothing, whether it be a shirt or the legs of your pants, to bandage yourself or use as a tourniquet. This will help stop or reduce your bleeding and significantly increase your chances of getting to safety. Luckily, Todd was still mobile after the attack. However, if you're too injured to move, how could you signal for help? Your cell phone is your best bet, assuming you have service. A whistle or flare could also get someone's attention. A mirror can be a good light signal, using the sun's reflection to your advantage. And if all else fails, start yelling for help.
I think I stopped one more time and just kind of checked my body, and I was very aware of what was going on around me and just making sure that I was going to get out of there alive. 4 miles later, got to the truck, and first thing I thought about was I need to put a note on the bulletin board and just let other people that might be coming up here hiking that there's an aggressive grizzly with cubs in the area. So I'm in my truck trying to get a sticky note out and a pen and trying to write a note, and just blood dripping off the end of the pen. You couldn't read it. It was worthless. So I gave up on that idea. Took a quick video and a couple photos of my wounds and started driving down the road. I had about a 45-minute drive to get to town to the hospital. There was a sheriff's officer and a doctor and a nurse that were just standing out front there waiting for me, and I pulled up, and it's been a couple hours since the attack now, so all the wounds were, my muscles were stiff and just couldn't even reach to get my seatbelt off or to put my truck in park. So the sheriff's officer came over and opened the door and got in and got the truck in park, got my seatbelt undone, and he mentioned, he's like, I'm surprised you took the time to buckle up. And I was like, well, I just survived 2 grizzly bear attacks. I don't want to die in a car wreck because I didn't have a seatbelt on. Then I walked into the hospital, and everybody was kind of lined up along the corridor wanted to see what a bear attack victim looked like. And first thing they did is get x-rays of my arm to find out I had a broken ulna bone. And then they spent the next 7 hours doing stitches.
Todd was left with a broken forearm and went through months of physical therapy to get strength back in his left hand. Besides that, he now has a 5-inch scar on the side of his head. He was given antibiotics to prevent infection and opted not to take pain medication. We asked Todd what he thought was the most important thing to know when traveling in bear country.
Well, if you're out there in bear country or anywhere in the outdoors with wild animals, if possible, hike with 2 or more people. You just have less chance of being attacked by an animal. And if you do have an injury, you've got someone to help get you out of the woods. But otherwise, if you're out there alone, there's certain things you can do to survive or to minimize the chances of an attack. Bear spray, always have bear spray with you. If you're comfortable carrying a firearm, have that as well. And I think it's key to practice with those. You need to constantly be pulling your bear spray out of the holster, pulling the safety clip out. And even if you have an old bear spray, practice shooting it, know what it feels like. Do that over and over again until it becomes muscle memory. And then if you're in that situation where a bear is attacking you, instead of like panicking at the last second, tripping over yourself or running, you just automatically muscle memory, pull your bear spray, pull it out, you're ready to go. You didn't even think about it. And that's what happened in my situation. I didn't think about pulling my bear spray. All of a sudden I just did and had it in my hand ready to go. Had I not done that, I would have had maybe a second or two to try to get it all together and probably would never even have sprayed her. She would have probably attacked me before I could have got it ready. So I think that's key. Same thing with the firearm. Practice, train, know how to use it. Be ready for any situation. Run it through your mind mentally too. Like if I'm out here hiking and a bear attacks me right now, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna survive? How am I gonna get out of here? All those things that just running it over and over in your head are going to help you in that kind of a situation. Another thing would be you don't always have cell service in the mountains. So I carry a PLB, personal locating beacon, and having one of those on you, it reaches satellites, and in an emergency situation where you can't hike out of the woods, you push the button and you can have search and rescue or emergency services there in no time. Another thing would be just paying attention to your awareness in the woods. When you're out there hiking, don't be looking at your feet all the time. Be looking out in front of you, around you. Know what your surroundings. You know, if there's a carcass on the side of the trail and there's a grizzly bear on it, you want to see it from a distance and get out of there. You don't want to walk up to it suddenly and be in that bear space. Look at tracks. Look at scat. You know, if you've got fresh grizzly tracks on the trail, then maybe this is a time you would leave, not hike that trail. Or bear scat, at least you know what's in the area. And also sound. You know, people wear their earbuds and their headphones all the time hiking and listening to their favorite tune, but you can't hear what's going on around you. You can't hear a bear sneaking in on you or growling at you or snapping its jaws in the brush or a mountain lion coming in behind you. So just that situational awareness when you're out there in the woods is a key to survival as well and avoiding a bad situation. Other things in surviving in the outdoors would be what's in your survival backpack. You want to have a knife, you want to have duct tape for bandaging wounds or making a splint. You need a flashlight with extra batteries. You might want to have your matches or a lighter in case you need to start a fire and you're injured out there and have to spend the night or cold conditions. Other things to do out there are to be physically and mentally prepared for being out there. I mean, the stronger you are, the more exercise you've done, the better shape you are, the easier it is to survive a bad situation or to get yourself out of the woods if necessary.
Couldn't have said it better myself. For Todd, this event has been a blessing in disguise. As traumatic as it was for him, if anything, it made him closer to nature.
Well, after a number of years since my attack, I don't hate bears. I still think they're very enjoyable to watch and to view and to take photos of from a distance. And, you know, I'm still out in the woods every day enjoying those situations. It hasn't scared me out of the woods. I love the outdoors. That's something I'm always going to do. You know, this bear I was in her space or close enough that she was uncomfortable. She had cubs that she was protecting, and some bears are more aggressive than others, and that's just the situation. I survived it. I got through it. I'm glad I didn't shoot her, you know, and kill her, because there had been 2 abandoned cubs. It just reminds me of, you know, being prepared and ready for whatever might happen if it comes again. Hopefully not, but I'm not going to change my life because of that one situation.
Komodo dragons, which look like something out of a Jurassic Park film, are large, fast, and deadly. There have been 24 total attacks on humans, 5 of them being fatal, but even those who survived to tell the tale were left with some seriously nasty wounds. With their curved teeth, venomous bites, sharp claws, and powerful neck muscles, Komodo dragons are known to tear pieces of flesh off their victims and each other.
They're cannibals.
If the initial attack doesn't kill you, the venom they produce will prevent your blood from clotting and could even paralyze you. In other words, if you're not treated in time, death is almost guaranteed. That is exactly what happened to an Indonesian fisherman, Muhammad Anwar, who in 2009 docked at Komodo Island for a quick snack of apples. Fortunately for him, one small mistake led to what many believe was an excruciating death at the hands of 2 hungry Komodo dragons. A witness of the incident later told authorities that Anwar was bleeding all over his body. With less than 3,500 Komodo dragons in the wild, it's rare for the endangered species to attack humans. But rangers working on Komodo Island have recently seen an increase. The tourists, children, and even rangers have all fallen victim to attacks. But it's not only on Komodo Island where these incidents occur. Has a Komodo dragon ever swallowed a human whole? How long could you survive after one of their venomous bites? And are they really cannibals? Before we tear into this one, make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing survival tips. On average, Komodo dragons weigh 155 pounds on an empty stomach, but the heaviest ever recorded came in at 366 pounds.
That's a big boy.
The significant weight jump is because they can expand their stomachs, allowing Komodos to eat up to 80% of their body weight in a single meal. That's like if I ate 100 Big Macs in one go. Are Komodo dragons mukbangers? Eating habits aside, male Komodos can reach an average length of 10 feet from head to tail. And with approximately 60 serrated teeth, they can do a lot of damage quickly. Their powerful neck muscles are used when they grab hold of prey and thrash it from side to side, ripping flesh off like a hot knife through butter. Based on witness reports, it seems this is exactly what happened to Muhammad Anwar. After docking, he began climbing a tree to collect fresh apples. While reaching for the fruit, he slipped and fell to the ground. Within moments, he was ambushed by 2 Komodos. Some sources claim the area Anwar entered was prohibited to humans, and it's clear why that's the case. Teresa Tawa witnessed the attack and needed counseling after seeing what happened to Anwar. She explained that the dragons bit his hands, legs, and worst of all, his neck. The entire scene was brutal and bloody. He was pronounced dead on arrival at a nearby clinic. Unfortunately, Anwar's attack occurred just 2 years after an 8-year-old boy's life was cut short due to a Komodo attack in a national park on the same island. This would be the first fatal attack on the island in 33 years, but it served as a stark reminder to the world just how dangerous these dragons truly are. A spokesperson for the national park explained that the boy went behind a bush to go to the bathroom and was pounced on by a Komodo. As opportunistic hunters, Komodo dragons tend to sneak up on their prey, and unfortunately, he never saw it coming. It bit his waist and thrashed him from side to side. The boy's uncle, a local fisherman, threw rocks at the aggressive Komodo in hopes it would release his nephew. Although the tactic worked, sadly, he bled to death just 30 minutes later. His uncle reported he was bitten in half. Although that was not confirmed, he may have just been in total shock seeing his nephew die right before his eyes. And even then, the dragon wouldn't have been able to eat half of the boy's body in one go. It would have to eat away at it slowly, so they definitely can't swallow a human whole, even with a size advantage on us.
Well, that's a relief.
Anacondas, on the other hand, well, that's a story for another episode. The attack was a shock to locals, since 1,200 live among the Komodos, and the community went over 3 decades without any fatal incidents. Although they were known to wander into residential areas, the thought of them killing a human wasn't a huge concern. They had coexisted with them for so long, with victims only sustaining minor injuries. Trying to understand the reasoning for the attack, some rangers believed a lack of food was the cause. It was during the dry season, after all. A park ranger who survived a Komodo attack quickly learned what these animals can do when food is scarce. In 2019, the same year Anwar fell victim to Komodo dragons, Mei Yen, a park ranger, was also attacked in his office. Working on Rincha Island, one of 3 islands making up Komodo National Park, Mei Yen went into his office as he did every day for nearly a year. Moments after sitting at his desk, he noticed a Komodo dragon right by his feet. Wearing nothing but sandals and fearful of the dragon's vicious bite, Mei Yen slowly moved his leg away. Unfortunately for him, this caught the attention of the hungry animal, who quickly attacked. The dragon bit into his leg with a crunch. Mei Yen had to act fast. He stepped on the dragon's neck with his other foot in hopes it would let go. Determined to fill its stomach, the Komodo continued biting. In desperation, Mei Yen tried to pry open its mouth, and although he was able to get free, the animal managed to rip some flesh off of Mei Yen's hand as well. During the attack, a coworker heard Mei Yen scream for help and quickly came to his aid while alerting others. But no one was expecting what would ensue following the initial attack. With the ability to smell blood from almost 6 miles away, 7 other nearby Komodos headed toward the injured ranger. Thankfully, another ranger was able to fend off the new visitors with a large stick. This allowed the others to help Mei Yen get to a local hospital by boat to receive the medical attention he desperately needed. But his injuries were too severe to treat there. He was flown to Bali, where he underwent 6 hours of surgery and received 55 stitches. After a week-long stay, Mei Yen was sent back to Flores Island, where he spent another 6 months in hospital recovering. So how did the Komodo get into his office in the first place? Well, as it turns out, a cleaner accidentally left the door open overnight. To this day, Mei Yen still has trauma from the incident and doesn't like talking about the attack that nearly killed him. He still works as a ranger, but only indoors, where, statistically speaking, there shouldn't be any Komodos. Now, hopefully, you'll never find yourself being attacked by a Komodo dragon. But if you are, though, these tips may help save your life. First, you'll want to be aware of your surroundings. If you can spot a Komodo before it sneaks up on you, you're already increasing your chances of survival. Move out of its way and get to safety. Unfortunately, you won't always see them before it's too late, and if that's the case, you'll want to do everything you can to fight back. Kick it, step on it, throw things at it, whatever it takes to get it to release its vicious bite, as time is now of the essence. Mayen survived his attack due to quick thinking, which means you can too.
Think fast!
Once free, get to safety and seek medical attention immediately. The quicker you treat your wounds, the more likely you'll survive. Although some sources claim that a Komodo's teeth can carry dozens of different types of bacteria, which could lead to sepsis, this theory has been debunked in a journal by the National Academy of Sciences. Their venom, which is released from glands in their lower jaw, will inject toxic proteins into your system. These proteins will lower your blood pressure and prevent your blood from clotting. It can also cause muscle paralysis, hypothermia, and shock if not treated in time. So, with all that being said, immediate medical attention is your best bet if you'd like to survive a Komodo attack. And the scary part? Komodo dragons are known to track down wounded prey. If that happens to you, they'll keep biting you until you're no longer moving. So the odds truly aren't in your favor. Given their ability to run up to 16 miles per hour, you'll want to move fast, if you can at all, before others come to join the feast. With a carnivorous diet consisting of everything from mice to buffalo, they're even known for feasting on their own babies if they're hungry enough. Yeah, thank goodness my parents aren't cannibals. If you haven't learned it by now, stay away from these beasts when they're hungry. The good news is, encountering a Komodo dragon isn't always necessarily a death sentence. Just ask the 5 scuba divers who found themselves stranded on an island with them. In 2008, a group of adventurous tourists were swept up by the strong currents of the Flores region while out for a dive. After surviving shark-infested waters for 12 hours, they found their way onto Rincha Island, nearly 25 miles from where they started. Tired, hungry, and dehydrated, the group thought they were on a deserted island and started scavenging for food. Little did they know, they had washed up on one of the world's only natural habitats for Komodo dragons.
We got lucky.
It's believed approximately 1,300 dragons live on the island, and it was only a matter of time before one spotted the newcomers. And let's just say it wasn't the warmest of welcomes. A Komodo immediately tried to attack one of the divers, Helena, with the group doing whatever they could to fend it off. She swung her diving belt at the aggressive reptile and, sure enough, it bit a chunk out of it. Helena later explained how it was trying to bite at her feet and attempted to attack 3 times before it finally fled, likely because the other members of the group were throwing rocks at its head. Thankfully, the divers survived 2 days and nights by eating raw shellfish, all while signaling for help. It was their orange emergency float that caught the eye of the rescue crew looking for them. They were all taken to a hospital on Flores Island and treated for dehydration and minor cuts, and celebrated their brush with death at a local bar. Yeah, I'd probably want a nice refreshing cocktail or two after that ordeal. While most of these attacks happened at Komodo National Park, there are over 50 zoos worldwide that keep Komodos in captivity, and one of them in Hollywood became famous for the wrong reasons. In 2001, while on a private tour of Hollywood's Los Angeles Zoo with his then wife, actress Sharon Stone, Phil Bronstein was happily taking photos of the animals. Good old Uncle Phil. But it was the Komodo dragon that particularly caught his attention. After being invited into the reptile's cage, a common occurrence for VIP guests, the zookeeper advised Phil to remove his white shoes and socks to prevent the dragon from mistaking them for a white rat, which was part of its diet. Wow, okay. That's a red flag if I've ever heard one. As Bronstein moved in to snap a pic with the captive lizard, it lunged at his foot and nearly bit his big toe. There are conflicting reports as to how Bronstein got out. He claims he had to pry open the dragon's mouth and escape through the feeding door while the zookeeper distracted it.
Yeah, right.
Regardless of how Bronstein managed to escape, he had to undergo surgery on his foot to reattach severed tendons and rebuild his big toe. Despite his injuries, he chose not to press charges against the zoo. I'm also happy to report that the Komodo was okay following the incident. Maybe this should be a lesson for all not to get too close to wild animals, even those in captivity. There are less than 3,500 Komodo dragons alive, mainly due to habitat loss, climate change, and poaching. Unfortunately, locals on Flores Island have been known to burn the dragon's natural habitat to make room for land developments. and poachers regularly hunt the world's largest lizard for profit. Poaching has become a serious problem for the Komodo dragon population, with merchants selling them for between $3,500 and $35,000, depending on their size and whether they're dead or alive. While tourism does help sustain Komodo National Park, it is also seen as an issue. Tourists are known to feed the wild reptiles, which can disrupt their mating behavior.
Don't do that.
Even though females can give birth without the need of their male counterparts, thanks to a process called parthenogenesis, this only allows them to give birth to males, and this can hinder their population. Rising sea levels and habitat destruction to make way for agriculture are expected to reduce their natural habitat by 30% over the next 45 years. And these guys, as scary as they are, play a significant role in our ecosystem. As apex predators, they keep things in check and ensure that everything from buffalo to rodents don't overpopulate. They also eat carcasses, which can help reduce the spread of disease. So if you spot a Komodo in the wild, just let it be. Odds are it can do some serious damage to you.
My pet chimpanzee has attacked my daughter. She is bleeding profusely, and the animal has to be shot. It has attacked my 50-year-old daughter. She needs an ambulance.
On this terrifying day, Tamara Bogatti and her daughter narrowly avoided death when their pet chimp, Buck, finally snapped.
Okay, are you safe?
I need you to see.
Okay.
For St. James Davis and his wife, what started as a birthday party for their pet chimp Mo turned into the worst day of their lives.
And I got another chimp bite my fingers one at a time, and the other one was sitting on my back, eating me alive. My butt, my privates, just my neck, head, and it's a miracle that I'm alive.
Others, like this young boy, are also lucky to be alive. Sadly, many apes are misunderstood and killed for their natural behavior.
A 450-pound gorilla dragging around a 3-year-old boy like a rag doll. This morning, the Cincinnati Zoo defending its decision to put down the 17-year-old endangered silverback named Harambe.
Today we'll look at 4 more of the most unsettling ape attacks and show you what you'll need to know to survive one. Why did a chimp owner blame the PETA organization for a horrific accident? Why was delivering a birthday cake to a pet chimp a recipe for disaster? And was Harambe the gorilla really trying to save the 3-year-old boy?
You're both locked in the basement, correct? We're both locked in the basement, yes. And they've got to do a headshot on the ape. Don't say, oh, it's cute, or come here. It will attack them.
Unlike dogs, apes don't make great house pets. People often adopt or buy a chimpanzee when they're babies, thinking they could imprint on them as parents. But while they may be cute and cuddly in their youth, they can quickly grow to 100 pounds or more. But it's not their size that poses a threat. When fully matured, chimpanzees can be 5 to 6 times stronger than the average human. They can also carry disease and dangerous bacteria and not even show symptoms. We're talking herpes, tuberculosis, and simian immunodeficiency virus. And if they lack a healthy social life with other chimps or feel threatened in any way, they're known for aggressive outbursts, sometimes fatal ones. Our first attack survivor got caught in the middle of one, leaving him with scars that will haunt him forever. St. James Davis, a NASCAR driver, traveled to Tanzania, Africa in 1967. Upon his return home to California, his girlfriend at the time, LaDonna, was greeted with a surprise that would change their lives forever. During St. James's Africa trip, he came across a mother chimp giving birth in the wild. Moments later, he witnessed something utterly shocking.
I saw the poachers shoot chimps and I saw Mo's mom give them birth. And the poacher come up, chopped her head off, her hands and feet. They saw me. Excuse me, I'm out of here.
St. James couldn't sleep that night, and the next day he decided to return to the scene. He found an orphan chimp in distress, lying next to his dead mother. In that moment, he knew he had to do something.
I took him, washed him up, and brought him home.
Been with us ever since.
40 years ago. 40 years ago.
LaDonna fell in love with the chimp, and the pair decided to name the cuddly little guy Mo. St. James and Mo formed a loving bond, and he would often carry him in a sling around his chest as he worked in his auto body shop. Mo the chimp wasn't treated like a regular house pet. Instead, Davis and his wife raised him like their child. From sitting at the kitchen table to sleeping in their bed, Mo even learned how to use the toilet. 2 years later, St. James and LaDonna got married, and Mo was both the flower thrower and St. James's best man. In 1977, when Mo was 10 years old and much larger, he bit a woman's finger. This incident inevitably led to a lawsuit, which included an attempt to remove Mo from the Davises' possession. But after seeing Mo's tame, human-like behavior, the judge dismissed the case. In 1998, Mo escaped from his cage, and it took numerous police and animal control officers to apprehend him. He was returned home, but not before he dented a police cruiser and mauled an officer's hand. A year later, Mo bit a visitor's finger after she put her hand in his cage, ignoring the Davises' warnings not to do so. Following the attack, Mo was moved to an animal sanctuary to live with other chimps. The Davises still visited him regularly, but on his 38th birthday, the unthinkable happened.
When I looked around, I knew we were in trouble.
Yeah. And they came after you first?
Yes. I was between them and James, and they came at me first. I got my thumb, and he pushed us apart, and I went backwards. And when I went backwards, they went after him. Otherwise, I probably would have got the blunt of the attack.
On March 3, 2005, the Davises brought a cake for Mo to celebrate his birthday. Although Mo didn't share a cage with the other chimps at the sanctuary, they were all kept in the same area. So when his adoptive parents sliced him a piece of cake and handed it to him through the cage, the other chimps weren't too happy.
So you have this thing that's not a dog, it's not a person. It's this weird in-between thing. It's an animal, but it's also intelligent. And so when you do something for someone else, but you don't do something for them, they get rage, like horrific rage.
Before they knew it, 2 male chimps had broken out of their cage and started to attack LaDonna and St. James. St. James pushed LaDonna under a nearby table and saved her life, but at a significant cost to his own.
He stuck his thumb in my eye and peeled off the side of my face over my other side of the face. Then he drugged me, bit off my heel, and he drugged me down a hill 30 feet. You know, so impacted with dirt and mud. It took him a long time to really clean me up.
Upon hearing LaDonna's screams, a staff member quickly ran over. Shocked by the horrific scene, they grabbed a handgun. The sanctuary ranger managed to shoot one of the chimps, while the other pulled St. James's bloody body away in a frenzy. Moments later, the second chimp was shot dead. By the time the attack was over, St. James had lost his nose, right eye, 8 of his fingers, testicles, and even pieces of his lips, cheeks, buttocks, and foot. Thankfully, because of her husband's quick thinking, LaDonna only walked away from the horrific incident with a missing thumb. Craig Stanford, a professor of anthropology and biology at the University of Southern California, argued that the attack was to show Mo, the new male chimp, who was in charge. The 2 male chimps couldn't attack him, so instead, according to Stanford, they attacked the first individuals they came across who were in their immediate territory. Other experts claimed the chimps were jealous of the favoritism Mo was regularly getting, and it's possible both these theories are correct. St. James needed more than a dozen surgeries and stayed in hospital for 5 months. He was put in a medically induced coma and, at one point, was fighting for his life. Since then, he's been confined to a wheelchair and can't see out of his right eye. He also doesn't have full use of his hands. After his recovery, the Davises regularly visited Mo at his new home, a sanctuary in the San Bernardino Mountains. But in 2008, he managed to escape. Mo broke off the steel welds of his cage and was never seen again. The Davises were heartbroken, not knowing what happened to the chimp they had raised for nearly 40 years. Surviving a chimp attack like this is next to impossible unless you have a gun or other weapon to defend yourself with. Something former chimp owner Tamara Brogatti knew all too well.
Police say the chimpanzee's owner, Tamara Brogatti, was seeking shelter from the pet chimp inside her home.
Tamara brought Buck the chimp home to her ranch in Oregon in 2004 when he was just 21 days old. For years, he was able to roam around freely and was treated as a regular house pet. That is until 2010, when Oregon passed a law banning the possession of dangerous animals, including chimps. However, because Tamara had owned Buck before the law came into effect, she wasn't required to give him up. PETA was fighting to have Buck moved from the Brogatti home to a proper animal sanctuary, and in April 2021, they filed several complaints to the Oregon Department of Agriculture. This led to an investigation, and on June 16, 2021, The city told Tamra she had 6 months to fix the issues, which included no longer allowing Buck to roam freely around her property. Just 4 days later, authorities received an emergency call from the Brogotti's home.
I've locked myself in the basement with her. I can't get out to get my own gun. I'm on the patio. You're going to have to do a headshot.
Yeah, this one is, but... Oh.
We're sending a deputy right now. Hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm typing this up right now. More than one, because the ape, if the ape gets the drop on him, he's gone too. I've never seen anything like this.
Buck escaped his enclosure after Tamra's daughter forgot to lock his gate. This was when he attacked, biting her torso, arms, and legs. When police arrived on the scene, Buck was out front, and Tamra told them again that he needed to be put down.
Okay, are you safe?
Yes, I need you to shoot him.
Okay.
After Buck was shot and killed, Tamra and her daughter were taken to a hospital and treated for their injuries. PETA blamed Tamra for Buck's death, claiming she had violated the requirements of his permit and deprived the social animal of interacting with other chimps, which may have led to his outburst. Tamra took no responsibility, instead blaming PETA for filing the initial complaint and the Oregon Department of Agriculture for not allowing Buck to roam freely around as he did before, which led to his agitation. Often, human error or ego leads to the tragic loss of an animal's life in situations like these. From thinking wild animals can be tamed as pets to neglecting your child at the zoo, the sad reality is that it's usually the animals who have to suffer from our behavior. Harambe was born at Gladys Porter Zoo in Brownsville, Texas on May 27, 1999. As he continued to grow, it was determined he needed a bigger space to accommodate him. Experts also decided he had to learn adult gorilla behavior, which required him to be around other grown silverbacks. This led to his move to the Cincinnati Zoo on September 18, 2014. Just 1 day after his 17th birthday, Harambe became an internet sensation following an incident that should have never happened.
A 450-pound gorilla dragging around a 3-year-old boy like a rag doll. This morning, the Cincinnati Zoo defending its decision to put down the 17-year-old endangered silverback named Harambe.
While visiting the zoo, a 3-year-old and his mother went to see the gorillas. The child climbed over a 3-foot fence, through 4 feet of bushes, and fell 12 feet onto a moat, separating the gorillas from visitors. Zoo staff immediately tried to get the gorillas back into their enclosure, which 2 females obliged. The only male gorilla, Harambe, decided to check out what the commotion was all about.
At one point, the primate stops and appears to hold the child's hand, later propping the boy up from behind and eventually dragging him all the way to the other side of the cage. After 10 excruciating minutes, officials made the decision to shoot and kill him, saying that a tranquilizer dart would have been too risky.
Following the incident, Harambe became a name known around the world. Some felt the zoo's response was unethical, while others blamed the child's mother for allowing the boy to fall into the enclosure in the first place. Experts defended the zoo's actions, even though they were sure Harambe didn't mean to hurt the boy.
They made the absolutely right decision. I need to let you know that that gorilla had no intention of hurting that child, and I don't think anybody believes that. However, that gorilla was disoriented, he was agitated, he didn't understand his strength.
Was killing Harambe the right move? Let us know what you think in the comments. Days after the incident, online petitions started popping up calling for the mother to be held responsible for Harambe's death. An investigation was launched, and ultimately, prosecutors didn't blame her for negligence, as she was attending to her 3 other children when the boy took off. Gorilla attacks don't happen often, but when they do, they are usually in self-defense on the part of the animal. As herbivores, they'll never look at a human as a potential meal. As you've already seen, dangerous situations do occur. In 2020, a zookeeper in Madrid accidentally scared a gorilla, leading to serious injuries. Another incident at the Rotterdam Zoo involved a woman who thought she had formed a bond with Bokido, a large silverback, during several years of visiting. Upon Bokido's escape from his enclosure in 2007, he attacked the woman and other zoogoers. Gorilla survival tips are simple. Keep your distance. Don't look them in the eye, as this could be mistaken as a challenge. And never show your teeth, as that smile of yours will be seen as a sign of aggression. Even though the average gorilla can weigh nearly 500 pounds and be up to 20 times stronger than the average human, they're not as dangerous as some other wild apes. Even the primates that seem harmless can do serious damage. Native to East and South Asian rainforests, gibbons can be found in countries including China, Thailand, Cambodia, India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. They're known for having long arms, some reaching 5 feet in length, and large, sharp canines that can inflict severe damage to anything or anyone they may perceive as a threat. Although not as strong as a silverback gorilla, gibbons can swing their bodies from branch to branch, jumping distances of up to 50 feet. This is thanks to their hook-like hands and specialized shoulder joints, allowing them to move quickly. Gibbons often scavenge for fruits and greens, but they are also known to eat insects, bird eggs, and small birds if the opportunity arises. As territorial animals, they live in small groups and have no problem fighting one another if that's what it takes to protect themselves. Unfortunately, due to deforestation, many gibbons are losing their natural habitats, which has led to their relocation to sanctuaries and zoos. Gibbons don't appear to be much of a threat to humans, likely due to their smaller size, especially compared to other apes. They are usually just over 2 feet long, with the largest species, the siamang, reaching 3 feet and weighing around 26 pounds. That said, they are still wild animals and can do some serious damage when provoked, something a couple of zoo visitors learned the hard way in 2011. After escaping from its enclosure at the Malacca Zoo in Malaysia, a gibbon bit a 5-year-old girl's ankle and then grabbed a 3-year-old boy, biting off a piece of his thigh. The 5-year-old had minor wounds that didn't appear serious, but the boy was rushed to hospital with severe injuries. Aside from his thigh, the boy also had injuries to his face. His mother, Anita Suleiman, explained, "I saw my husband grappling with the gibbon. A visitor came to his aid and hit the gibbon, forcing it to release the child. He lost a lot of blood. I fear my son will be scarred and traumatized for life." The zoo's director, Ahmed Azhar Mohammed, didn't confirm how the ape had escaped its enclosure, but suspected unruly visitors provoked it. If you encounter a gibbon in the wild, it will likely try to avoid you. But if it does attack, you'll want to fight back, as they are small but mighty. By now, you clearly understand why keeping an ape as a pet is not a good idea. Even if they seem tame, a wild animal will always be a wild animal, and instincts can kick in at any time. If you see one in its natural habitat, do your best to respect its territory. Some are endangered, and most can be incredibly territorial. No matter where you encounter one, getting on an ape's bad side will never bode well for you. This poor guy getting dragged away is Mike Hodge, a lion conservationist and sanctuary owner who never would have expected his friendly lion, Shamba, to turn on him.
And as all I can remember was a big paw in front of my face. And I passed out.
Mike's just one of many victims of wild cat attacks around the world. Lions, tigers, cougars, and leopards all have one thing in common. They love to hunt. It's in their nature, and you could be their next breakfast.
I mean, he just reached up and grabbed my bag and just brought me down.
Whether it be their strength, surprise attacks, or killer instinct, facing any of these beasts is a recipe for disaster. While many encounter these big cats safely at a zoo or on safari, this isn't the case for everyone. In some areas of India, leopards are an everyday threat, even in densely populated villages, and they are not afraid of us. Or if you live on the West Coast in North America, cougars have been known to show up in people's backyards, going after pets, and even children. Unfortunately, many have fallen prey to these masterful hunters, surviving more than just a scratch.
So his upper fangs, one broke my nose, the other went into my upper lip, and the lower fangs went into my cheek. And as he closed down his grip, it was like a hot knife through butter.
Where his teeth went into my neck, he grazed the main artery in my neck.
Today we'll look at some of the most unsettling wild cat attacks and tell you what you need to know to survive them. What big cat has killed the most people? What should you do if you encounter a cougar on your bicycle? And why shouldn't you turn your back on a tiger? This terrifying incident happened at Marakili Animal Sanctuary, a wilderness haven housing lions and tigers. Located in Tabazimbi, South Africa, Mike Hodge and his wife Chrissy founded the sanctuary in 2010. Unsurprisingly, Hodge felt very comfortable around these animals, including Shamba, a lion he had raised since it was a cub. But when he went to investigate a strange smell inside Shamba's cage, which appeared to be irritating the 10-year-old lion, things took a turn for the worse.
Somebody help! Please! He's gonna go! Please! Shamba!
While Mike looked around, a fellow ranger did their best to distract Shamba so he could leave the lion's enclosure safely, a standard protocol. However, this time, Shamba was more interested in Mike, who was just a few feet away from the enclosure's door with his back exposed. One of the most important things to avoid when coming into contact with a lion is to turn your back. This puts you in a vulnerable position and is a prime opportunity for the lion to strike. Unfortunately, that's exactly what Shamba did. In an instant, he pounced and dug his teeth into Mike's neck, dragging him away like a rag doll. Luckily, Mike wasn't alone. In the heat of the moment, Shamba was shot and killed. Mike was then airlifted to a hospital in Johannesburg. He suffered a broken jaw and several lacerations. Thankfully, he was able to recover from his injuries, but the loss of the animal, which nearly took his life, is what affected him the most. If you encounter a lion, you should stay calm and stand your ground. As you can see from Mike's situation, running away will increase your likelihood of being pounced on. And given that lions can run up to 50 miles per hour, you won't stand a chance in this race. In a situation where a lion does attack, you'll want to protect your neck, as they tend to go for the kill before eating their prey. Fighting back and attacking their face is your best bet. But grown lions can weigh up to 570 pounds, so good luck. On average, lions kill between 200 and 250 people every year. And that's based on the deaths we know about. Being aware of your surroundings is your best bet to avoid an attack in the first place, but that's not always an option, especially when you're dealing with mountain lions, aka cougars.
Right away, things started to go black, and I knew, this is basically the end of my life. I remember working at Debbie, basically saying goodbye to my friend, this is it, and I blacked out.
For Aniela, what started as a peaceful bike ride in California turned into the worst day of her life. Anne is a former Marine and personal trainer who loves to exercise and the outdoors. After being stationed in California, Anne quickly fell in love with the state and decided to plant her roots. She also found a new hobby, mountain biking. This is how she met her husband, James, and made plenty of new friends. One of those friends, Debbie Nichols, is credited with saving her life. In January 2004, Anne and Debbie decided to head out on a familiar trail in Whiting Ranch Wilderness Park in California. It was the same park they met at years before. While on their ride, Anne saw a man standing next to an abandoned bike. When she checked to see if everything was alright, the man told her he had found the bike, but no rider. Anne thought he must be pulling some kind of prank on her. It was a nice, expensive-looking bike, not one someone would just abandon. Anne and Debbie shrugged it off and decided to continue down the trail. Moments later, the unthinkable happened. Off to the side, Anne noticed something moving in the bushes. She thought maybe she had scared a deer.
I felt a very strong impact. I felt the animal grab a hold of me, and I knew right away, this is no deer.
In the blink of an eye, a 110-pound cougar pounced on her, knocking her off her bike. As Debbie turned the corner, she found Anne on the ground, being viciously attacked. In an effort to save her friend, she threw her bike at the cougar. The determined cougar dragged Anne 30 feet to a nearby ravine with a tight grip around her neck. Debbie grabbed Anne's legs in desperation, hoping she'd be able to break free from the cougar's jaws, but to no avail.
I found myself gasping for air. I had no idea what had happened, how the lion was now gone. All I know is I'm choking, I can't get any air, and I realize I'm actually choking in my own blood.
Luckily, nearby bikers heard their screams for help. They threw rocks at the cougar, one of which hit the back of its neck. This was enough to tick it off and release Anne from its grasp. Anne was in really bad shape, with severe injuries to her neck and face. She was airlifted to hospital where she underwent 6 hours of reconstructive surgery.
I have 20 plus bite wounds to my neck, and yet carotid artery, jugular vein, esophagus, voice box, none of these things are hit.
According to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, there have been 25 documented cougar attacks in the state since 1986, 4 of which were fatal. And and one of those fatal attacks occurred the same day that Anne nearly lost her life. It turns out the abandoned bike belonged to Mark Jeffrey Reynolds, a 35-year-old competition cyclist who sadly was killed by the same cougar just 4 hours before her attack. Cougars are known for ambushing their prey when they least expect it. Their stealth is also enhanced by their agility, with powerful hind legs that help them jump up to 18 feet. This makes surviving an attack much more difficult, but like in Anne's case, it's still possible. For starters, you'll want to be aware of any areas known to be hotspots for cougars. Avoid going on hikes or bike trails alone, as there is always strength in numbers. And if you do come across one, keep your distance. Usually cougars will do their best to avoid us, but if one appears interested in you, do your best to appear big, make loud sounds, and wave your arms around to scare it. Kinda like this. If you're on a bike, don't try to speed off quickly, as this may lead to a chase. Instead, slowly walk away from the cougar while keeping your eyes on it. If it does attack, fight back as hard as you can. Aim for its eyes and nose while protecting your neck. If you have a weapon, use it. Otherwise, find a blunt object like a rock or a stick to fight back with. Anne has since returned to the trail, facing her fears and reminding herself that the odds of being attacked again are statistically low. Authorities managed to track down and kill the cougar that attacked her. While Anne encountered the cougar out in the wild, attacks can still happen close to home. As one of the most prevalent species of wildcat in North America, especially out west, they have been known to show up in residential areas. Keep a close eye on your kids and pets. They're easy targets for hungry cougars that are bold enough to venture into your backyard. It's not just the cats in the wild you need to worry about either. Zoo attacks happen more often than most people realize. We did a whole video covering that, and it might make you think twice about taking that risky selfie. But for now, let's focus on one specific zoo attack that changed this woman's life forever. Before we pounce into that story, make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible survival stories.
He bit into my head. And the next cut was, am I gonna survive this?
While attending the Feast for a Beast fundraiser at Zoo Boise in Idaho, Jan Gold got closer to a tiger than she expected. As a Friends of Zoo Boise board member, Jan had a special place in her heart for animals. So she was more than happy to help set up the fundraiser, an event to raise money to upgrade the zoo's facilities. While the fundraiser was wrapping up, Jan was part of a group that received an exclusive invitation to witness a tiger feeding. Understandably, they were excited. But as she entered the feeding area, she noticed something strange.
The last cage, the gate was wide open, and we noticed that. We just kind of, well, obviously they must know it's open.
As they got closer, Taiga, a male 600-pound Siberian tiger, walked in from outside. Jan tried to close the cage door quickly, but before she knew it, Taiga was right in front of her. She started to back away, trying not to startle him, but it didn't help that the other group members ran away screaming. Jan quickly turned around to join the others, but Taiga pounced on her, knocking her to the ground.
I mean, he just reached up and grabbed my back and just brought me down.
The tiger bit into Jan's head, likely in an attempt to kill its prey quickly. After hearing screams, Sergeant Rich Schnebley, who was also at the event, quickly came to Jan's aid and fired his pistol to spook Taiga. At first, he backed off, but when the officer and zoo manager David Wayne approached Jan, Taiga started to move forward again. A third shot spooked him back into his cage, and it was quickly locked shut. Jan was rushed to the hospital in serious condition with lacerations to her head and back, as well as a broken leg and nerve damage. Not to mention that the officer who came to Jan's rescue nearly killed her after one of the bullets he shot ricocheted and went right into her hip.
I'm laying on the ground and I can't move from the waist down, or I can't feel anything. They didn't know if I'd walk again. I had so many nerves that were damaged because that bullet, when it hit my bone, it exploded. And so I still have lots of shrapnel in there.
Following the attack, the Boise City Council voted to pay for Jan's medical expenses, including rehabilitation for her injured leg. Jan has no hard feelings, saying it was a mistake and mistakes happen. So what did Jan do wrong in this situation?
When she turned around, she provided the framework for the tiger to see aha, this is prey.
When facing a tiger, you'll want to try to distract it by throwing things away from you and appearing big to scare it off. Carefully step away and do not turn your back. For tigers, this is an open invitation for a chase. Unfortunately for Jan, had she not turned around at that moment, it's possible that she could have closed the cage safely. While this tiger attack happened in captivity, there have been hundreds of fatalities out in the wild. Between 2014 and 2022, nearly 500 people were killed in India alone. An even more frightening statistic is that the number has been consistently rising since 2018. Sadly, they are often due to a lack of food and humans encroaching on their territory. As for Siberian tigers, like the one that attacked Jan, they suffer more attacks from us than we do from them. Poaching and deforestation are two significant factors in the decreasing number of Siberian tigers, with humans responsible for up to 80% of their deaths. Running into a wild Siberian tiger is incredibly rare, as the endangered species is only found in Russia, China, and Korea. And with their numbers dwindling, the odds of seeing one outside of a zoo are slim to none. The same can't be said for leopards, which are known to wreak havoc on anything and everyone they can. The hunt for a leopard terrorizing a village in India was underway after it took the lives of 3 children in 4 days. The first victim was 15-year-old Munir Ahmad, who was found mauled to death on Saturday, June 11th, 2022. The next evening, a 12-year-old boy, Shahid Ahmed, went missing while he was out working with his family's cattle. Shortly after, his body was discovered with injuries consistent with a wild animal attack. Just days after the 2 boys' bodies turned up, a 10-year-old girl, Rutba Manzoor, was playing in her garden when a leopard pounced on her. Following the attacks, a team of 50 was created to find the animal and tranquilize it. If that failed, fatally shooting it was the next best option. They ventured into the woods nearby where the 2 boys were found dead. That's when they also discovered poor young Rutba's body on the forest floor. Unfortunately, leopard attacks have increased in India. There were over 2,300 between 2006 and 2022. Of those, 234 people lost their lives. As populations grow and leopards lose their natural habitats, their inability to adapt has led to more human conflicts. Whether attacking livestock or humans, when the opportunity presents itself, leopards are known for striking when their prey least expects it. With their ability to climb trees, blend into their surroundings, and agile movement, they can be a threat to anyone. To avoid being a victim of a leopard attack, plan ahead for any regions you might be visiting. They're commonly found in India, China, and parts of Africa. If you spot one in the wild, keep your distance. As always, don't run, as this signals to the predator that you're prey. If it starts to attack, aim for the eyes, nose, or other sensitive areas. Now, I know I'm repeating myself, guys, but wildcats be wildcattin'. Regardless of whether they've been raised as cubs in captivity or not, these big cats will always have a killer instinct within them. And although some of these animals like to hunt us down, the majority of the time, it's because they feel threatened. Between poaching and the loss of their natural habitat, human-animal conflicts will continue to rise. We've only covered a few of the world's deadliest cats here, and as you can imagine, there are plenty more. We rank them in a tier list, so check that out if you want to know which ones are the most dangerous. Until then, stay prepared for all life has to throw at you, and we'll see you next time on How to Survive.